Hello and welcome to Legalbytes. If you're new here, my name is Alita. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and DC, and on this channel, we explain the law one bite at a time. We don't give legal advice, but we do talk about how the law works and try to look into our crystal ball to see how things might turn out. If you're enjoying this on YouTube, we'd love it if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, all the great YouTube-y stuff. And if you want to listen while out and about, we're now offering our live streams in podcast form where you can leave a rating and review. Links are in the description below, as well as to our clips channel where you can find some of the best clips taken from our live streams. Otherwise, if you want to catch me elsewhere, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so on Locals, Patreon, or by becoming a YouTube member, or by buying some really awesome Legalbytes merch. Again, all links are in the description below. And with that said, let's get into it.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're coming in from. I hope you're having a good one. We do have Indy. She's on the floor right now. Yeah, she'll jump on the chair soon enough. I've got Mabby right here, just off camera, and Holmes is probably not too far either. Oh, thank you, Hazo1. I know. I've totally been under the weather this entire time that we've been streaming this trial. I think I am slowly getting better. Hopefully, I won't be coughing so much, so I don't have to mute my mic and remember to unmute my mic. Pulling the lane. So thank you for the well wishes. Okay, so today is day 5 of this trial. We have got more more police interview footage to go through. So the same witness as yesterday, that is Detective Alexandria Hancock. We will be seeing a lot more of her because it sounds like, so this is interview number 2. It sounds like there's 3 of them that they're planning to show. I think the third one is maybe the longest. It sounded like she said it was like almost 2 hours. So this one, and I did see in the chat some folks were saying that the second half of this interview is where things get explosive because she admits all kinds of things. Ooh. So we will see. Nonetheless, there is a poll in the chat right now. So for folks that want to vote in it, to say whether they are leaning guilty, not guilty, or still too soon. It has been fascinating tracking those numbers and seeing those shift in various directions based on the testimony that's come out in so far. So, yeah. Charles Dawson, thank you so much for the super chat. Do you get the feeling that the case is a warm up for the Alec Baldwin trial? It seems a lot of the questioning is more focused on him than HGR. I think, he's definitely the big fish. He is absolutely the big fish that they are trying to go for, without a doubt. So I think that this could be, I think that's a good instinct to have, is that, the prosecution's kind of working out their kinks and seeing what's going to work and what's not going to work with Alec Baldwin. At the same time, I mean, we should all be expecting that Alec Baldwin and his entire team are also watching this trial very, very closely to see what kind of evidence the state has against him, which actually is kind of interesting that I wonder if there's anything that they are holding back, but so far there has been some evidence and some testimony that's come out in this trial that seems like they could have done a more truncated version of what they're doing for this, because it seems like it's a little bit more relevant to Baldwin as opposed to Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. So I almost wonder, like, if they're showing all their cards, if they should be showing as many cards as they are right now. But I mean, absolutely, you better believe that Baldwin and his team are going to be watching all of this and figuring out how they can craft their strategy, considering the information that the state has, not only the information that the state has, but what they're using and how they're putting it on. Maybe they'll choose a little bit of a different strategy against him as opposed to against Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. I do still think that, like, the state, I am so, I mentioned this yesterday. I am leaning pro guilty at this point myself. It's not a heavy lean, but I am leaning pro guilty because there are some parts that the defense is saying that she was working under impossible circumstances, right? That the Rust Productions was cutting corners and they were going at a blistering speed, and that as a result she could not possibly do her job in the way that she would have wanted to, which would be, safe. Um, the problem with that is that I have yet to see something from the defense that not just points a finger at someone else, but shows that that also undercuts her own liability and her own culpability. So because you can have multiple people be responsible at the same time, like all of these other people could be responsible and she could still be criminally negligent. Like two things could be true at the same time. So that's the thing that I have yet to see from the defense, is for them to make a good showing that the responsibility by all of these other people undercuts her responsibility, and it gives her a pass essentially. So maybe that'll come up in their case in chief. I don't know. I'm looking for it and I'm waiting for it. But so far I haven't seen that. And then there's also the issue of her not properly checking the gun ahead of time. Like that's still her responsibility regardless of the blistering speed. There has to be overwhelming evidence, like something like she had people that were bearing down on her on that day in that hour that were saying like, no, 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 go, 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 go. Even still, as the person who is in charge of safety right now, one of the biggest problems with the interview so far is that her the impression that she gives, especially in that second interview, is that she is chill. She's almost excited to be there to talk to the cops. She's super social. She's like just a little bit too relaxed. It's like she doesn't understand the consequences of this whole situation, the gravity of the whole situation. And that speaks to her potential negligence, that maybe she had that same kind of attitude while on set. So that's one of the big problems with this interview so far. But I have heard from some folks that the what's to come is even worse than what we've seen. And already I think it's pretty bad. Um okay, I've got a few questions here that have come in. Okay. Let me get these and then we'll get to the testimony, I promise. Benji wants to know, why did Bowles let her do this interview? Could they have refused? I don't see what they can gain from it. I don't They could not have completely refused. Um at some point she would have had to speak, but I don't think she was adequately prepared for it. Or at least if she was, she didn't listen to the advice that she was given. We can never really know if that was her fault or his fault, but based on the fact that he didn't interrupt at all, um, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable with how much he's kind of just sitting there and she's talking and talking and talking. Like I can tell you this. So I've never been in this position with a client who is being interviewed by the police. I've never been in that position. I have, however, been in the position of bringing a client to a deposition, and it's a similar kind of feel, right? They're being asked questions. They're required to respond to, most, if not all, of the questions being asked of them. And I'm there to object or to, make sure that the questions that are asked are proper and the answers that are being given are also proper and are not giving away the rights of my client. And attorneys can always interrupt a deposition. That with some rules to that. If a question's been asked, don't interrupt to have a break before they answer, because then it looks like you're feeding them an answer. But like, if you see that the deposition is going down a wrong path, or that the client is going down in a certain kind of way, you can take a break, pull them out of it so that they can kind of get their head again, take a breather, and then go back to it. Give them some advice, give them some counsel. That can always be done. So far, that has not happened at all in this interview that we've seen so far. And I think it's a similar kind of concept for this kind of an interview. Um, all right, Nomad Purple. Were the interviews better, worse, same as you expected? I mean, so far they're not as like. I mean, what I had heard, what it sounded like to me was that they were crazy terrible for her. But it sounds like that's what's to come. So we'll see. Effie wants to know if it's revealed that she was underqualified to be a lead armorer, would that reduce her culpability for negligence? I mean, that's up to the jury. The jury can decide, maybe she was still negligent in taking that job if she grew up around firearms, and she also grew up working as like an assistant to her dad or her stepdad at certain points, knowing that there is a lot of responsibility. And then saying like, yeah, I can do this. I'm, you know, I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe they say, what was Rest Productions doing hiring this person in the first place? She was doomed to fail. Um, that's one of those decisions that is entirely up to the jury, and it's up to how it strikes them, honestly. So I can't give you um a more detailed answer than that, because I don't know. I mean, how do you guys feel? Like, how do you guys feel? Do you feel like her age maybe helps her in this case or hurts her in this case? I'll do a poll on that one after I finish this one. I wanted to give it a little bit more time for people to answer. We've got over 300 votes at this point. I can probably end the poll. I'll give it another minute. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. I'd like to know what you guys know, what you guys think. Actually, Shiro Khan says the police all but begged her to get a lawyer, IMO, or wait for one, and she said no and went to incriminate herself. I feel she basically got herself into hot water for no reason. Yes, yes, and the thing is, that she seemed like she didn't want to be there. She didn't want to be there. She was told that in order to get an attorney, she would have to wait for a period of time. And that is true. That is true. Like, she would have to wait for someone, even if she had her own attorney that was on call, she would have to wait for them to have some time to go there and be there for the interview. So it seemed like she just didn't want to be there, which makes sense, understandable, given the whole day. She probably just wanted to go home at the end of the day and just like get away from everyone. She's been in like the eye of all of the crew members. She was separated and put into the cop car, in people's view. She mentioned in that first like body cam sort of interview that she was like, I'm just so uncomfortable right now. Like, people are looking at me, and I completely understand. She probably just wanted to go home and be around no one. But she gave up a lot by doing that. She gave up a lot. And she made some admissions. So anyhow, I think, let's see here. Get a maybe one or two, and then we'll get started. Becca Lynn, question: when was Hannah charged? I can't remember exactly when she was charged. She and Alec Baldwin were charged at the same time, his first charges. I think I want to say it was last spring, maybe. It took some time. It took like, I want to say it took like over a year for them to actually get charged. Like, the investigation took a while. And yeah, so I want to say it was last spring that she was charged. Alec Baldwin was charged. His charges were dropped. The DA said that they were dropping his because they needed more time. It was a timeline issue that they had said, basically. They had made a number of missteps, though, in that whole process, including overcharging him unconstitutionally. So they had to, like, embarrassingly withdraw a couple enhancement charges, or at least one enhancement charge. Um, the kind of thing that, like, anyone that's been through a constitutional law class generally understands. A law that's passed after the incident that criminalizes or increases criminal penalty on something cannot be retroactively applied to an incident that already happened before. So anyhow, all right. What am I learning, or what I am learning is that if the police ask you to come in for questioning, charge or no, pack a set of clothes, PJs, meds, and a toothbrush. Yes, get comfortable. Get comfortable. I mean, oftentimes, if it's like on the heels of an actual incident, you don't have time to do that. But if you do have time, get into your leggings, get into some comfortable shoes, a sweatshirt, get ready to sit there for a while. And don't be in a hurry. Do not be in a hurry, because you can really give up some of your big rights, right there. Oh, and I'm sorry, there was one more here. I'm Mr. Cheeseball Productions says, my wife wondered why there was such a huge difference between the interrogations. One, she was like super mellow, and the other one, she was on an upper of some sort. I I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it requires some speculation if you don't know her personally, right? And you can't ask her personally. But I suspect that the first one, she had been, I mean, there was my impression by the end of it was she probably came off of she was coming off of an adrenaline rush, right? Her adrenaline was going off as soon as that incident happened. She knew that she was under the gun. She knew that people were going to look at her because, that's her job, right? Is to maintain that kind of safety, prevent these kind of things from happening. She's very concerned about the entire set looking at her and talking about her, and then also like what is that going to do to her reputation in the industry, of course. And like she even mentioned like, oh, like I don't want to be that person that's like the next Brandon Lee person, like somebody who's associated with one of those really 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 big incidents in the industry that no one ever forgets, right? Like if you are talking about guns in Hollywood, guns on a Hollywood set, you're often talking about preventing the Brandon Lee thing from happening, right? Like it's just that's just one of those things that becomes immortalized in the industry. Now, there's probably going to be you want to prevent the Rust film thing from happening, or the Alec Baldwin thing from happening, or the Hannah Gutierrez-Reed thing from happening. Most likely it's the name that's going to stick is probably Alec Baldwin because that's the big star power name that people know. But regardless, like she's like, oh no, like now my name is associated with that, and that's never going to die. Understandable. But, so she's been living in this anxiety for how many hours now at that point, and hasn't been able to like step away and like, like step away and kind of relax and get her brain back. So it seemed like she was just exhausted at that point. That was my impression. Maybe she was on something. I don't know. Folks have speculated about that. I'm not gonna assume that someone is on drugs if I don't have any other evidence to support that. My impression was she was exhausted. This second time, I don't know why she was so chatty Cathy. I don't know why she was so gregarious, like as if she was going in to like become their super best friend. That should never have happened. She should have gone into that thinking, "They are trying to look for things to get me." Like I am going to be very careful about what I say. I'm going to answer in as few words as possible, answer only the questions that are provided to me and nothing more. Um, but for some reason, it seemed like she was under this impression that the police were there to help her. Alec Baldwin also had a number of interviews and phone calls with them that he made that he seemed to have the same impression that like he was calling the police over the phone and giving them all this information and talking to them like as if they're there to help exonerate him. Um, but they're not. They never are. So keep that in mind for anyone else watching. Um, so I yeah, it was very strange to me, and now it's gonna have a bad impression on the jury, I think, because she's just like it's almost like she's there to become Detective Hancock's, like, best friend. Like, "We're gonna go out for drinks after this and, like, have a girls' night." That's how it felt. Alright, I'm gonna end the poll, and then um, we're gonna get to the testimony, finally. Hey, Holmesy. Okay, cool. Let's do it, shall we? Okay.
Are we on the record?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and resume the video at 1 hour and 5 minutes.
So 55%, sorry, really quick, 55% have said guilty, 32% have said nope, still too soon, 11% have said not guilty. So those numbers continue definitely continue to shift for sure. Crazy.
It's gonna hurt somebody. I love horses, but I don't like horses because of Westerns. Westerns have made me not like horses. Horses and guns just suck.
Hannah, are you a certified firearms instructor?
I don't know.
Okay. Have you ever taken like any courses or anything to become an instructor?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if that's required for this.
Yeah, and it might not be, but more just, your back. And I'm sorry, Corporal, I myself couldn't hear what kind of an instructor you were asking her about. Can you summarize that?
Yeah, so I had asked her if she was a certified firearms instructor.
Okay, thank you. Background and
Yeah,
your
totally.
interest in
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, mostly just trained with my dad. My dad, probably wouldn't send me to go train with someone else exactly,
Makes sense.
Yeah, he is kind of the industry.
He
So
is
as far
kind
as
of the
accident
industry.
discharges on set.
Can I just ask?
Okay, so I think when
Are we good on hearing? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Real quick, Nathan Allen Pinard, thanks so much for the super chat. Seems to me the chain of custody is most important in this case, not for the gun, but for the ammo. Dummies do not seem to have been treated as projectile ammo on the set. I agree. That's something that definitely needs to be buttoned up for sure. For both sides, honestly.
October 17th, they both occurred within 10 minutes of each other.
So they're on the same day?
They were on the same day, and it was chaotic for
Okay.
that little bit. But anyway, so I go to the bathroom. It's the first time I've been able to step off of set. I think it's like 2, maybe 3 o'clock. Finally get to step off set. I'm on the toilet, and all of a sudden I hear some screaming in my earpiece. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then I hear Dave say, it's okay, everyone, it's just a misfire. And I go, what the fuck? So I run out of the bathroom.
Isn't she supposed to be there? Like I know that they've said that COVID is one of those things that has restricted her from being there, but unless I'm hoping for her sake that she says that that's the reason that she couldn't be there, because if she's just like, oh, I'm off in the bathroom on the toilet while this is happening, it's just another example of her not taking her job duty seriously.
With my pants halfway down. I'm running to set, trying to figure out what happened, and I walk up to set, and Sarah's loading the guns, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And she's all like, oh, good. I was like, what happened? She's like, nothing really. Can you load the one in there? And I say, okay, I'll go in there and I'll load that one, because I had been.
And to be clear, she's talking about the Sarah Zachary misfire, the one where Sarah Zachary was loading it herself or something like that, which, yeah, again, that should have been Hannah doing that job.
Loading that Henry with that stuntman for quite some time now, probably most of the day. So I go in there and I load it with him. I load that one with him and I tell him, all right. So I said, all right, you got about 13 quarter or half loads in there. I can't really remember what it was for that particular scene. That might have been, the actors were outside, so those were probably quarters. So I tell him you have about 13 quarter loads in there. And he said, is there one in the chamber? And I said, yes. And he said, okay. And I said, okay. So don't touch the trigger. And he was like, okay. And I walk out. And then I go up to Sarah and I said, hey, what happened? And she was like, I heard there was a misfire, which is the wrong terminology for it even. That's an accidental discharge. So I was like, I heard there was a misfire or something. And she was like, yeah, I was loading it. And she's like, and it just went off. And I said, because I had to train her how to put them in and make sure that the hammer goes down gently enough. Because I asked her if she knew how to do that from Seth, and she's like, yeah, but let me just do it again a couple of times in front of you. And I saw her do it, and I was like, no. I was like, put your thumb all the way over the trigger. I mean, not the trigger, the hammer. Otherwise, if you don't put it all the way over, your hands will be sweaty sometimes, and it'll slip. And so she was loading it, and I'm not exactly sure what happened. Like I said, I was in the bathroom. But guns don't just go off like that. And if you're loading it, it's most likely that you made a mistake just loading it and that the hammer came down too quick.
Okay.
And, you know,
So again, if Sarah's not as familiar with guns or with this gun, why was she the one loading it?
when you're in a rush, that can happen. It hasn't happened to me, but I can understand it happening. And then as soon as that had happened and I walked outside and I was asking her about that, next thing I know, boom, inside of the fucking thing. And I already told him this gun was hot. I know for a fact I did, and we were doing that scene all day. So this man knows this gun is hot.
Why is she not supervising a hot gun? I can understand if she, I can understand. I mean, it's one thing. It's one thing for it to be a gun that she has certified is or verified is either has nothing in it or has dummies or blanks, but like dummies more than blanks, but if you know that this was a hot gun and you're just like, all right, handle it, bye, and you just walk away and you do other stuff, like that's outrageous to me. That is outrageous to me.
And then I go in there and I said, what the fuck are you doing in here? And he tells me, he's like, I don't know, it just went off. And I was like, well, it's a lever action rifle, and that's not really how that works, bud. So pissed him off a little bit, but I said, all right, be careful in here. Thankfully, we were doing that scene pretty much all day, so I think a lot of camera had their earplugs in, but
It was inside when it went off then?
it was inside of this, little shack that they were in, and most of the camera crew was in there at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, this is inconsistent with what she said initially, which in her first in station interview, which was that there were no live rounds on set. So if it was a hot gun, that would have to have live rounds, wouldn't it? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that's my understanding is that hot means it has live rounds.
Yeah, so that one was inside, and then there was also a popper misfire with special effects. Yeah, and that
Also, I'm wondering why the prosecutor isn't pausing. Oh, okay, hot gun would have blanks. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, thank you for the correction. But I'm wondering why the prosecutor isn't pausing for these parts for emphasis to make sure that the jury is listening and understanding.
and that was the day. That was the day that we first started shooting and everything. We had pretty good luck with that. Every time, we got done with the scene, I count all the shots. So I know if there's still a hot gun on set. So
But
I
blanks
was
can
looking for
still
that, and most of the
kill
time I
people
would just
from close
run to the
range.
actor and be like, don't touch it. It's hot still.
Okay.
Yeah.
As far as when Sarah's gun went off, is that possible if you drop the hammer too quickly that it can discharge?
Yeah, totally. And
Without
it was
pulling the trigger?
yeah, no, that happens.
Okay.
Well, see, that's the thing. No, so you have to pull the trigger in order to bring that hammer all the way down, So you have your finger on the hammer, and in order to get the hammer to release back to a position where the person could grab it and do the scene, you have to touch the trigger and slowly lower the hammer down. If you touch the trigger, it'll just send the hammer down. So if your finger isn't there to stop it while you're loading it, it's going to come down and shoot it.
That's what the expert said.
Now I understand why that can.
That
everybody has said that it happens often. This kind of stuff. So
that totally can happen often, and it's just because ultimately you do have to lower down that hammer again in order to start the scene. You can't
That can happen often. She's just nonchalantly oh yeah, that can totally happen easily. Then why aren't you there every single time that someone else is manipulating this thing to make sure it's done properly? I'm getting mad now. I'm getting very mad. My meter is getting more and more towards guilty at this point.
Give it to the actor, cocked back and everything, So yeah, and it's the same with a lot of even my 22, I have to do that as well. I'll bring it back. There's a little piece that stays back, and unless I hold that and slowly release it while holding my trigger, that would go off too.
Interesting.
So even my
I don't
Walther
know a whole
P,
lot about revolvers.
and that's just my Walther P22. That's not a revolver. Like, that's just a regular, like, magazine.
In order to load these, does the hammer have to be back?
It has to be half-cocked,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, and then you have to bring it back all the way, or, like, kind of, you can bring it back from a half-cock, kind of, but it helps to bring it back all the way and just bring it down slowly.
Okay. After both of those accidental discharges, what happened?
So this day is kind of when Sarah and I butt heads. Because ultimately, like, after hers, I was livid. And then after that one, I was, like, furious. And so I tell her, I was like, no, dude, I was like, what just happened? And, like, I'm getting heckled by the fucking stuntman at this point. I
Rightfully
said, no,
so.
dude, that, like, wasn't okay. We need to talk to production about this because a lot of people are probably pissed about that because it happened within 10 minutes of each other, two of them. And I was like, oh my God. I literally screamed out, what the fuck is happening? But so I told Sarah, I was like, hey, we should probably talk to production about that. And, like, Sarah is embarrassed at this point. She's shaking. Her face is, like, pretty mad. And she's not really responding to me too much. I said, well, like, you know, you did that while loading it. And I was like, so I'm not sure if people are going to want you loading the guns anymore. And she was like, well, yours just went off in there after you loaded it. And I said, yeah, well, I can't be responsible for every dickhead fucking stunt guy that gets a hold of the gun and doesn't understand the concept that it's hot.
Right.
You know? And she was like, all right, well, so we'll go ahead. So I was like, we need to talk to production. I'll let you talk to them. I'm not trying to get us in trouble here. I'm just saying, like, we need to mind this because a lot of people are probably pissed. And the next thing I know, I get a text from Seth. So she was there. She was, like, mad, angry texting. And I thought she was probably talking to the producers. And the next thing I know, I get a text from Seth. And Seth tells me, Sarah told me about her accidental discharge. It was an accident. Accidents happen. You need to get over it. And I said, get over it. I was like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm not making a big deal about this. I was like, I'm not going to production to rat on her. I don't know what the fuck you're going on about.
So there was nobody from production in the area?
I think there was people from production in the area. I think there were, like, two, the regular chubby producer, he was there, and I think Nathan might have even been there.
And nobody?
They were there a lot. No one said anything. Sarah apologized on the spot, I guess. I didn't really apologize for that because I'm just trying to figure it out at this point, and I don't know what that guy did.
Who was the stuntman?
I don't even know his name. I think his name was Blake. Yeah, they also didn't have me train him at all with the gun, and he's Alex's stunt double, mind you. So, you know, Alex's stunt double. So he probably should have at least been trained, but also Alan, the stunt coordinator, was like, all my guys know what the fuck they're doing, so don't worry about them. So, yeah, didn't get to work with that guy. And back to, like, the Seth thing, I went up to Sarah about it, and I was like, hey, I texted her, and I was like, I'm sorry if you thought I was trying to start problems about this. I was just trying to say that we should tell production because I wouldn't be surprised if we both got fired for that. I wouldn't, like, you know, we need to make sure that everyone still feels comfortable after that. And she said, right. She said, no, I understand. I contacted Gabby and Ro about it, and I went ahead and told Seth, and I apologized to everyone on the spot, and I think they're going to just move past this and move by it. And I was like, okay, cool, as long as you contacted the producers.
Okay. But
Other than that,
didn't ever see her actually contact them?
No, I didn't. And also, at that point, I had already pissed her off, and she went to Seth about it, so I wasn't going to fuck with that anymore, and I just let her handle it.
Okay.
Because
you
ultimately,
yourself?
No, because she was my boss and already was, yeah.
Okay. To your knowledge, do you know of any reports being made about those?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I have been wondering recently if she did talk to them, and no one from production talked to us about it, which I thought was pretty weird. You know, like no one even said like, all right, guys, like, you know, get your shit together. Like no one said anything to us, at least to me directly.
Was, so when Sarah's went off, what happened? Did you take the gun after that, or what happened with it after?
After that, you know, we just had to keep loading it for the stunt guys, and ultimately, after hers went off, I didn't exactly have the option. We had 3 people that needed to be loaded right then.
Okay.
So I didn't exactly have the option to take Sarah off of guns that day. And also, she is my boss, so I'm not allowed to take her off of guns. Yeah, she does continue to load.
Okay. Even after
Oh, that's
that.
interesting. Good for the defense that I'm not allowed to take her off of guns because she is my boss. So it sounds like Sarah Zachary was assigned also to load guns, even though she was not properly trained in any sort of way. Oy.
Yeah.
After her discharging. Who
Still doesn't remove her
unloaded them
culpability,
today?
but
Unloaded them from the blanks?
Yeah.
Both of us.
Okay.
Yeah, and we unload them as we get them in from the actor as soon as they're done doing the scene.
You and Sarah then?
Yeah. Pretty much any big gun battle in this entire thing, we were both loading and unloading the guns.
What about the special effects, that squib or whatever that went off?
It was like a popper. I'm not sure if they had a squib go off. I never saw that. It's like a popper. It's like a thing that hangs from the ceiling, and it's filled with like little debris and things like that. But they were all supposed to go off for a scene, and one didn't go off. And then like maybe 2 minutes after the scene, it just like randomly went off, and people were like, "Oh shit!" But we were outside, so it wasn't too bad, you know.
Were you present? So you weren't present when it went off?
The popper?
Yeah.
I was present.
Okay.
I was outside, and I was a little, like maybe 20 feet away from it.
Okay.
I wasn't directly on the porch, so a lot of people on the porch were obviously freaked out, but I was pretty far away.
Okay. Do you know if any reports were made for that one?
For that popper? Oh, I have no idea. I don't, especially if it's not my department. I wouldn't really know about it. I didn't make any reports.
And I just want you to confirm, were guns ever taken out after hours, on lunch, on days off?
These guns absolutely were locked up every single moment that me and Sarah were not there, to my knowledge.
Okay. Going
And
back,
including lunch every day.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then going back to that, accidental discharge of Sarah, I know you said that you weren't there, you were in the bathroom.
Yes.
Um,
I was there for the second one
okay.
with the stuntman.
And is it okay for you to walk off when they have?
It's okay.
News?
Sometimes, you know, like I said, we were doing a lot of gun battles that whole entire day, and ultimately there was only 2 people shooting at the time, and I told Sarah, I was like, I need to use the bathroom right now or I'm literally going to piss my pants. And I told Dave that I was going to the bathroom too. So if I tell them I step off, and they know that.
Okay.
Because ultimately, you know, you can't hold it sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. And it really sucked that day too, because the bathrooms were like far as shit.
All right, we're gonna go, dig in the incident, okay?
Okay.
So the box of ammo that you pulled from that day,
Yeah. Box of dummies.
right, where did you pull that box from?
So that box, it was kind of peculiar actually. Now that I've thought about it a little more, because we had been looking for the 45 long Colt dummies, and we hadn't had a lot of them because, like I said, we used up a lot of mine at the beginning, if not all of them. And so we had to order some 4440s, which are kind of a similar size. And then we did get some 45 long Colts a little before that, probably before that weekend. And we put pretty much all of that entire box in Travis Fimel's gun belt.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so this box, I hadn't been aware of any more long Colt boxes and everything. And this box was kind of just sitting right next to my safe. on like this kind of extra bag that I bring to carry guns in.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I thought it was kind of weird. Looking back at it now, it was kind of just like sitting on top of my stuff, and considering the prop truck got moved over the weekend, I don't know like how easily that would have stayed up there.
And this box was there in the morning. Can you elaborate on that when you get there? Because I think it's a significant issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So this wasn't one of the original boxes that were provided though?
No, and it was weird. I think it just said dummies on it. Like
Okay.
nothing else. I saw just the word dummies on it from what I could remember. Which
Oh, sorry. I don't want to cut her off.
is not the regular font I'm used to seeing on it either.
And it's propped up in your bag.
Yeah.
And
It's propped up in my bag, you know, just like sitting on top of stuff, like not falling over in the bag, you know, because it was on top of something. So like it seems weird that it wouldn't have fallen over while moving.
Do you remember which bag it was?
It was like it was either above a Smith & Wesson bag. I don't know if you guys saw that. It's like it says Smith & Wesson, and I marked it out with Sharpie so that way people wouldn't rob my car. Oh, and then there's another black bag that I had too. They were both like there were two black bags kind of usually stacked on top of each other.
Okay.
Real quick, Sebastian, thanks for the super chat. Why isn't her lawyer advising her? I don't know, man. I don't know. And let me get a couple questions here. Okay. I'm Mr. Cheeseball Productions. Do you think someone will point out the production continued while the armorer went to the bathroom? The production should have paused until she was done. I mean, the way that you force that as an armorer is you take the weapons and you put them into a safe and lock it so that no one else can get it, and then they have to wait for you. But I don't know. Carolyn Nelson, will the prosecution use her conduct on other film sets? Probably not. I don't think so. Because that would, generally speaking, be considered propensity evidence, also known as character evidence. Some incident that is unrelated to this one that, you know, you can't draw, you know, it's not like it's part of this, right? If it was earlier in the production, it's connected. But if it's on an entirely different movie set, different set of circumstances, you can't bring it in unless you have some other compelling reason. So, you know, and I talked in my primer video about, you know, a motorcycle incident that is probably going to get brought. Well, it will get brought in if she testifies, but only if she testifies. The only reason why they can bring that in is because she lied to the police, and honesty of a witness is always at issue. So, but that's why it's only if she testifies, right? Because then she's actually a witness in her own trial. So no, that would not come in unless there's some specific reason to bring it in. Mountain Princess 207 wants to know, if you're a police department and you hire a security guard as a cop, who is responsible? If she didn't have the proper training and starts, is she responsible? Devil's advocate. I mean, I still think the police department would be responsible for misconduct if they didn't properly train someone. If she didn't have the proper training and starts, is she responsible? I mean, again, that's a question for the jury that they're gonna have to figure out. So we'll find out, man. Scion, will Hannah be treated like a celebrity in prison? Well, first off, assuming that she is found guilty, could very well happen in this case. I doubt it, but also if she's treated like a celebrity in prison, I don't know that that's going to be a good thing. I don't know that that celebrities are going to be treated any better in prison. Probably worse, if anything. Waffle with Jam, I love America, but the weapon culture seems psychotic from a Scandinavian perspective. Keep in mind, however, that the biggest Hannah Gutierrez-Reed critics, the biggest ones, are people who are very, very familiar with firearms. So I would push back on that and say that this is probably not representative of the general gun culture. I mean, I'm sure you could find people that are just as irresponsible. You can find that anywhere where there are guns. However, I would argue that this is not representative of the gun culture as a whole. I mean, any time I've talked with anyone who is a gun aficionado, who is, you know, likes to go to a gun range, or is, you know, someone who has a lot of experience one way or another, whether it's military, former military, cop, former cop, you know, or just likes guns, it's they're shocked by the details of this case. Roddy Love, where Hannah and Alec offer the same plea deal as Hall. I'm pretty sure Alec was not. Hannah, someone mentioned yesterday in the chat, I think that Hannah had been offered a plea deal, or maybe it was in one of the comments to yesterday's video. But I don't know that for sure. Derek Boodle, how could she prevent an accident when nobody's following safety rules or listening to her? That is the main sticking point by the defense. Debbie Faison Cook. Oh, Sarah was licensed to handle ammo. Okay. I'm wondering how she was licensed, who she was licensed by. That's very curious because it does sound like she didn't know anything about loading that gun. So anyway, okay, let's continue on.
So that, the box that you pulled out of that day, though,
Oh,
is on
also,
that bag. Yeah.
Sorry. This is Super Chat. Nathan Allen Pinard, thanks for the Super Chat. This interview shows the police officer has successfully manipulated her into a tunnel vision of sorts, forgetting someone died, hence the casual chat. I mean, yeah, I think so. I think this cop, Detective Hancock, has just done a fantastic job of giving the impression that she is Hannah's friend, that she's going to help her out, that she's going to, like she's there for her, right? Which is a bad thing for Hannah, great thing for the police.
Okay. And
It was just kind of sitting up there, and I remember I was like looking for, blanks to pull, dummies to pull, and I saw that box, and I was exclaimed, and I was like, where the fuck did this like box of dummies come from? I was like, have we had this the entire time? I was like, we've been needing these. Yeah, Nicole just laughed, and I don't really remember if Sarah was there or not, but I said like, oh, well, whatever, at least we have them now. Put them on the cart, and they went out with us.
okay.
And as I picked them up, they were jingling. So that indicates that they were dummies.
Okay. Had you seen the box prior to that point?
I hadn't really noticed that box prior to that point, but I think I had noticed a box that looked similar to it that we had gotten those newer ones from. And I think I remembered like a box similar to that. And it might have been the same box even.
Okay.
This was maybe, because we didn't put those dummies back in there though, but that's the only other box that looked like that box. Was one of those newer boxes that we got. And I think it just said like just dummies on it.
Corporal, based on your understanding of dummy rounds and how an armorer would check dummy rounds, based on your investigation, is it possible to determine that every round in a box is a dummy round if you just shake the entire box?
No.
Because if you just shake the box, how can you tell?
I mean, yeah, you could more than likely hear some of them jingling, but it wouldn't be, feasible to point out that every single one of those had BBs in it.
So, based on your interaction with Ms. Gutierrez during this part of the interview, I just want to be clear. Was it your impression that she claimed that this was a box she'd never seen before?
Yeah, that's what she stated.
So it was a box she'd never seen before and she just decided to grab it and start loading guns with it
Yes.
after shaking the entire box?
Yes.
Not each round, the box itself.
Correct. Just the box.
Good Lord.
No lettering, anything of the sort?
No lettering or anything like that. I think I just saw the word dummies.
Okay. It doesn't say caliber on it?
I don't believe it did. It might have said long quote on the other side. I don't really remember.
Okay.
LC, maybe.
All right.
I don't know.
So, at the beginning of the day, before lunch, how many guns were pulled out?
Okay. Can I have like a piece of paper or something? Just because like there's a lot of people in this,
Yeah, I have some, probably a few.
There we go.
I'm like, I feel like you're running out of paper.
All right, so, there's Alec Baldwin's character. This is Russ. Jensen's character, Woods, Drum, and we have Miller over here. And so these are the ones that were being used today. And also, I think Boone was coming in later that day, but I don't think we pulled his gun. So check this out. Miller has 2 pistols and a long rifle. There we go. Rust has a pistol, a long barrel one, different than everyone else's really. Long barrel. And he also has a Henry rifle. So at this point, that's, that's like 3 guns, 4, 5. And then Wood has a gun, and he also has a long gun. So that's another pistol and another rifle. Oh wait, he has a shotgun, my bad. And the drum also has a shotgun and a pistol.
Okay. And those were all prior to lunch?
These are all prior to lunch, yes. So I think that's a total of 1, 2, 3, 5 pistols and 4 long guns, 2 shotguns.
Okay.
And if you would like, that's yours.
You might need that.
Okay.
Well, we can illustrate a little more, so keep it.
Cool.
Were they loaded?
Prior to lunch?
Yeah.
So what you have to understand about before lunch is that we were at another location for half of the day before lunch, and then we had gotten done with that location and we moved up to the church.
Okay.
Right? So during the day, at the beginning of the day, none of those were dummied up at all because the shot was so wide. You just wouldn't see it.
So there was nothing in these?
There was nothing in these until we got to the church.
Okay. But still prior to breaking for lunch?
Yes, still prior to breaking to lunch. So if you had to break up the day like that, you could split before lunch into 2 things. One where we were somewhere else entirely and nothing was dummied up, and after that, we were in the church and things started to get dummied up, but weren't dummied up right away.
Okay. So then which ones of these were loaded prior to lunch? Yes.
Okay. Wood dummies prior to lunch, wood and drums pistols were dummied up. Sarah helped me dummy those up.
Okay.
And a little later on, the camera started getting in on Russ. And so Russ got his dummied up maybe an hour and a half before lunch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything with Miller?
Miller was not in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so Miller's character was coming later in the day. Yeah, so he wasn't in the church at all. So honestly, I'm pretty sure that we put away his 2 pistols and his long rifle for a good proportion before lunch because we always try to put them away as we're not using them and lock them up.
Okay. So the only ones dummied up though are the pistols?
Yeah, 3 pistols. And they should have both been used at the time of the incident. They were both, all 3 of those were out there.
Okay. So who loaded what gun?
Sarah and I loaded woods and drums. I don't really remember who they are, identical guns, so you wouldn't really know.
Okay.
And then Rust, I dummied that one up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And all the dummy rounds?
All the dummy rounds, yeah. And we were shaking them and checking them as we did it, yeah. Okay. And then some of them didn't have to be shaked, but yeah.
And why didn't they have to be?
They didn't have primer caps on them. And sometimes I accidentally still shake the ones with holes in them, just thinking that they're gonna shake, and then I realize. Yeah, that's the only time where I've ever thought there was a bad one is when I shake it and I don't hear anything, and then I realize oh, it's the ones that don't shake.
Can you recall when you loaded, whichever ones you loaded, what specific rounds you put in them?
Yes, okay. So for the Rust pistol, the wooden drum, I don't exactly remember those, I think most of those, not exactly sure what was up with those. But for the Rust one, I remember I had 4 of them without primer caps, okay, because I always try to use those ones ultimately. I have 4 of them without primer caps, and then I grabbed some dummies from that box, and I brought them in there, and I was walking in with his belt right here, and I'm walking in holding the 4 no primer cap ones and some extra ones too. And there were 2 that could have been shaken, so I'm shaking them both as I walk in, and and I put the four no primers in there. And then I like look at my hand and I notice there's one with a hole in the side. So I use that one next. And then I try to put one of the ones that shook in there, but it won't go in. And so at that point, I show Dave, I leave that one out because I notice like that needs to be cleaned. So I leave it out. I move the cylinder to a location.
Corporal, when you were in the room interviewing Ms. Gutierrez, did she physically demonstrate that she was shaking two dummies at one time?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good Lord.
Where you
That's a problem because how do you know that they're both rattling if you're shaking two at the same time and you hear rattling? Well, okay, they're both rattling. No, one of those might not be rattling.
wouldn't notice that that one isn't in there. Yeah. So I move it to where you wouldn't be able to see that, and then I go ahead, I show Dave, he watched me do it too that time. This is before lunch, and I walked out after handing it and showing it to Alec too.
Okay. So before breaking for lunch, there was only 5 rounds in that gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
And then I proceeded from that one that wouldn't go in, I just set it on the cart after that.
okay. The 4 that you got without the primer,
Wait,
Yeah.
where were those pulled from?
did she say that she loaded the 5 rounds and then she put it on the prop cart for lunch? I thought she said that she had locked it away. I'm sorry, I'm gonna back up a second. I want to make sure that I heard that right.
From that one that wouldn't go in, I just set it on the cart.
Oh wait.
Then I proceeded from that one that wouldn't go in, I just set it on the cart after that.
Okay.
Oh, the
4
round.
that you got
Okay.
without the primer,
Yeah,
where were those pulled from?
those were pulled from my pocket.
From your pocket?
Yeah.
Okay. So the other 2 were pulled from that box.
Corporal, when you interviewed Ms. Gutierrez on October 21st, she had some dummy rounds in her pocket, correct?
Yes, she did.
Do you remember how many she had?
She had 5, I believe.
Do you recall how many of those didn't have primer caps?
I believe 4 of them had the holes, but I don't remember how many didn't have primer caps.
Okay. I may ask you on a break to go back and review that, or I'll try to find it for you. Is it your understanding on October 21st, when you interviewed her, that the dummy rounds that she pulled out of her pocket were rounds that she had taken out of the gun?
No.
All right. So in addition to what she is describing to you now, apparently she had 5 additional dummy rounds in her pocket.
Yes, she did.
All right.
Real quick here. Taylor M, thanks for the super chat. 2 questions. I feel like her attorney should be able to object to work product or privilege text and interview. And will this be same prosecutor for Baldwin? Well, this conversation is not confidential at all. So no attorney-client privilege, no work product, because this is no one going into this conversation has any expectation of privacy for the defense and the defense team. They are talking to the opposing side here in this conversation. And will this be the same prosecutor for Baldwin? I don't know, actually. This is a special prosecutor who's been assigned for this case. I don't know if she's also working on the other one. I'd have to take a look at the filings for his to see if her name is on it. But I'm not sure. I think there is a second special prosecutor on it. I don't know. I'll double check and try to get back to you on that. Sebastian, thanks for the super chat. This interview, she is tugging herself to prison. I 100% agree. And there are a couple questions here. Peeps 85. If they charge Hannah, will the production company also get charged for hiring her? Probably not. I think that I mean, they already have charged her. That's how she's here. But it seems like they have limited the people and and entities that they are charging here to David Halls, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, and Alec Baldwin. So I don't anticipate any more charges to come out of this. Kat, love doing impeach. I asked yesterday, but if you answered, I had left. Sorry, is Alec Baldwin allowed to watch this trial? Yeah, I don't see any I haven't heard of any admonition for him to not watch the trial. For sure, his legal team can, but I mean, this is not his trial, so and well, actually, and even still, any of the parties that are actively involved in the case are allowed to watch all of the testimony, right? So just like Hannah Gutierrez-Reed is able to sit in the courtroom for all of the witnesses and all of the testimony and see all of the evidence, she may or may not testify later on in this trial, but she's still allowed to be there because she is the defendant here. The same thing would be true for Alec Baldwin. So yeah, he's absolutely allowed to see everything.
Yeah.
Do you remember about what time you loaded these guns?
Not exactly. I would maybe guess like 10:30 for Russ, maybe 10. And then for the other two, they were loaded like maybe 30 minutes before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fairly early.
Yeah, pretty early in the day. Starts super early.
When you broke for lunch, none of the rounds were taken out of any of these guns.
No, none of those were taken out. We just put them in the socks and we brought them to the truck. And from there, we put them into the safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the safe loaded with him.
With the dummies, yeah.
Yeah.
Still
Yeah,
dummies
that's
up.
what I mean, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Just so we're clear, yeah, just with the dummies.
Okay. And the other two guns were full.
Yeah, the other two guns still were dummied up, yeah.
Okay. So who physically put these back in the safe?
I'm pretty sure Sarah was doing it at the time, and I was kind of just down on the ground, like handing them up to the prop truck because I had a really bad headache.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't try to climb up there or anything because my head was like pounding.
And did you guys take them to the truck with the cart, or did you just carry them?
We just carried them.
Corporal, did Ms. Gutierrez tell you that she was, on October 21st, her head was pounding?
Yes.
She indicated she had a headache?
Yes, she did.
And just to be clear, the interview that we're watching right now, this interview was done less than 3 weeks after Ms. Hutchins died.
Yeah, this one was on November 9th.
Thank you.
We left the cart there at lunch.
And was all the ammo in that cart?
Yeah.
And was there some in the truck still?
Yeah, there's always going to still be like blanks in the truck because we wouldn't ever need to bring all of them out, you know.
How many boxes do you think are left on that cart?
On the cart, I would guess like maybe, I had some shotguns, I would guess maybe 10 boxes.
All on the bottom or?
On the bottom.
Yeah, Suki
On the
London.
bottom, and
That's
then
why
there was,
she wanted to bring
you
that
know,
up.
the dummies on the top that we were taking from.
Okay, so just one box on the top.
I think just one box on the top. I might have been preparing some things beforehand and dumped some quarter loads into my fanny pack or whatever and left a box up there that was empty.
Okay. All right, so after lunch, who took the guns out of the safe?
After lunch, not really sure. Don't really remember that too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been
One of
you
the,
or Sarah, right?
yeah, me or Sarah. Yeah, like I said, I kind of had a headache and I was like getting over it, so.
And they were all still in the socks?
They were all still in socks, yes.
How do you know which ones to pull? If they're all
We leave the handles out.
of the guns?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also I set them, so normally like there's a bulk of them up on the very top. I'll kind of set them on like the sides where the rifles like heads go if I need to access them quickly. And then there's, if you saw the gun safe, there's also like holsters on the side. So we would usually put Jensen and Swin Wood and Drum's guns over there because they're the two sheriffs and they go together.
Okay.
And then we would just put Russ's gun like kind of below all the other guns too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you pulled them back out,
Also, folks in the chat about the whole headache thing, I completely agree that can be because of the massive stress that she was under as well. If you're not getting good sleep and you're like running at a blistering pace all day with a crazy workload, absolutely that can do that without the presence of drugs. Completely agree. My only point was to point out why the prosecution wanted to emphasize that point is because they're also trying to argue that she was doing drugs and alcohol on set, or that she was in some way impaired while on set. That would add to her criminal negligence here.
did you guys check the rounds in them?
We didn't. We brought them to set as
Okay.
as they were in the stock still.
Okay. Were they ever reopened?
The guns? I'm not too sure. I reopened the Russ gun. I'm not sure about the wood and the drum.
Okay.
Sarah was mostly working on propping those guys up. The Russ gun I opened up after lunch because I remembered that it was dirty, and I remembered that I was like, all right, we're about to start shooting out of it. So I go and I put the little cleaning guy that I have, I open it up, put the cleaning guy through, take one out of the box, shake it. And at this point, after I had put the cleaning guy through, Dave's in my ear and he's like, hey, we need the gun in here. And I'm like, okay. So I start to bring the gun in there, shake it, put it in as I'm walking in. And then I bring it to Dave. I show Dave like all of the cylinder. And then I tell him it's dummied up. And I say, all right. Oh yeah. And he's like, it's okay. It's just, he's like getting talked to at this point, by the way, too, by Halyna and Joel. And he's sitting there and he's like, can you just hand me the gun because I'm going to sit in with it. And I said, okay. And I showed him it. And then I walked out after showing it to him and handing it to him. So he was just supposed to be sitting in with it.
Okay. So you clean it, but then grab another round from that box.
Yeah.
You didn't pull one because you said that you had put it on the cart.
Yeah. I didn't pull that same one.
Okay. Any issues?
By the way, just a quick update on the question about if Carrie Morrissey is also on the Baldwin case. Yes, she and Jason Lewis both, her and her co-counsel are both on the Alec Baldwin case as well. So we will see them once again in the Baldwin trial when that eventually happens. Currently set for July 9th. So buckle up, guys.
Issues when you put that round in that time?
No. Okay. And I think it's because it was clean.
So would you say it's your responsibility to check the guns after they come back out?
They come back out?
Like when they're brought back out from lunch?
Yeah, it's my responsibility to check them into the actor as they go out to the actor.
So not to check the rounds again?
I wouldn't really check it unless it was going to set.
But it did go to set?
Yeah, it went to set and I checked it with Dave.
Okay. Did you do any other, I know that you have different processes for checking these guns. Did you do any other check on that gun?
I did some barrel obstruction check too, also because, while that round was in there, you're able to pull the hammer back slightly, look down the barrel and see if there's anything in the barrel for that. So I did a barrel check on that gun.
And did you see anything at that point?
No.
Okay. That round that you pulled out of the box.
Corporal, do you understand the description that Ms. Gutierrez gave of how she was able to do a barrel check?
That she pulled the hammer back a little bit to check it.
Did she indicate, and I'm sorry, if you recall, did she indicate whether or not there was a dummy or whether the cylinder was loaded with dummies?
She didn't indicate at that point.
Okay. If a revolver cylinder is loaded with anything, can you see down the barrel?
I'm not too sure.
Okay.
last time that you loaded,
Yeah.
what did that look like?
It looked like the dummies that don't have the hole in the side or anything.
Okay. Did you notice anything different about any of the rounds that went in?
No.
Because you said that you spun it with Dave, right?
Yeah, I spent it with Dave.
Okay. And you didn't notice anything different?
No, I didn't notice anything different.
And 4 out of those.
I was also getting talked at with Dave and everything, and I'm just mostly trying to show it to Dave.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
while also looking at it, yeah.
makes sense. But the 4 of them still have the depressed primers?
Yes.
Okay. And then the 2 didn't?
Yeah.
How do you think someone would potentially put live ammo on?
Corporal, what's your understanding of, after the incident, where the gun was unloaded?
So in Hannah's interview, she said that Dave Halls had brought that revolver over to her, and she had checked and unloaded that weapon over the prop cart.
And have you seen photos of those rounds that were taken from the prop cart?
Yes,
Do you know, are there 4 dummy rounds with depressed primers?
I believe there was.
Thanks.
I mean, the same way you would put the dummies or the blanks in there, opening it up and putting it in there.
Okay. And you're talking about the dummy boxes?
What? Yeah.
The bags from that morning?
What do you, so I'm saying like you would, if you wanted to load this with a live, potentially you would just pull it back half cock and put it in there.
I don't know if you
But-
understood her question.
I don't think I am.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so, but you said that you loaded each and every one of those rounds.
Yeah.
So how would you say that a live round got in this box that you pulled from?
I'm not entirely sure if someone put a live round into that box or not. Those to the best of my abilities. I was walking in, shaking it in my ear, and I thought I heard it shake for sure.
When do you think somebody would have had the opportunity to put a live round?
You know, it's hard to speculate on that exactly, but, you know, that gun, it was on Alex most of the day, and then also it was on top of our cart sometimes too, and there were times when I was gone to the bathroom, you know, and like I said, I gotta pee, you know. And I tell the girls to watch the cart and everything, but sometimes the girls get distracted by the actors.
You need to elaborate on the box, because you're missing that part of the question.
Okay.
Of how that could have gotten in that box.
So, I mean, honestly, that box was sitting out all day. And when I picked up that box, I heard it jingle. Like the whole box jingle. So that
The whole
to
box?
me was saying,
Again.
you know,
So confirming,
a box
she
of
meant what she
dummies,
said before.
You know, still check everyone for the jingle. But so definitely some of those were 100% dummies, you know, and I don't know, someone possibly could have done something at lunch. The box could have already had some live one in it in the morning, and you probably wouldn't have noticed, unless you picked it up. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure when that could have got in there, and honestly, it could have been in there from the beginning of it.
Okay. Where was the prop cart?
The prop cart, so that's another thing. The prop cart like moved significantly after the incident.
Really quick, my thought after that, her checking the dummy rounds by shaking the whole box as opposed to the individual round, it has me wondering if the jury is going to decide that she's just too stupid to have been criminally negligent. I don't know. Stupidity can help a defendant in some cases. I don't know if it will in this case. Joel Zabelful, thanks for the super chat. Is she trying to be cooperative to not look guilty? Could that be why she's telling all? I think that's a strong possibility in this case. It wouldn't surprise me if that happens all the time. If someone wants to be as open and cooperative as possible because they just don't want them to, to suspect them. Um, but that's a terrible way to go about it. Terrible way to go about it. You have to understand that the police are going to be suspicious of you regardless of whether you are cooperative or not. And sorry, you asked this question earlier, but thank you for the super chat. Nonetheless, I'm Mr. Cheeseball Productions. Why hasn't anyone brought up the director should be double checking everything because the buck stops with them? Maybe that's what Cross will do. Well, not in. I mean, it's easy to think that because the director is like, in charge of the whole set, right? But the safety director is the first AD. That's Dave Halls. So really he's the one who should be overseeing all safety on set. The director just simply doesn't have the bandwidth to be able to do everything that he has to do and check every single round. So I think that's why everybody's talking about David Hall so much, because that's more his responsibility. Carolyn Elson was the AD, the guy who took the plea deal. Yes, David Hall's the first AD. He's the guy that took the plea deal. I would put money down on the fact that he's going to be testifying here. Ratty Love, do you think if Hannah and Alec are found guilty, that this will change the film industry standards / requirements when guns and ammo are used? Hopefully it will have an impact. I hope so too. I really hope so. I mentioned this before, but the Twilight Zone movie where there was 3 deaths on set because of a helicopter crashed and in a very gruesome way killed three of the actors. The director was charged and a number of other people were charged along with him, and it ended with an acquittal, but it was enough to cause um panic in the industry, and things did change with insurance and whatnot quite a bit, but obviously there are still many ways for people to get injured or killed on set. So hopefully they will change the standards of it, at the very least what has to be done to hire an armorer. Sebastian, thanks for the super chat. I truly think she sacked the wrong lawyer. Yeah, could be. Derek Boodle, it's not her intelligence, it's her California Valley Girl accent. Well, as someone from Southern California, who is often pointed out because of the way that I say things like God, what are some of the words that people have pointed out about my California accent? Um I don't know. I would say that I hope that people don't think that, women with a California accent are less intelligent because of the way that we say things. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't help in this context, I think, because of her very laid back nature on top of everything. Also, Sandy, thanks so much for gifting 5 more Legalbytes memberships. So Roxana Nagales, Matthew Baxter, Amy Salinger, the Royal Tea House, and Diamond Girl, you have all been gifted memberships by Sandy. So welcome back to Bite Club. I'm very, very happy to have you all here. And thanks again, Sandy. Very, very kind and generous of you. I love it when folks gift memberships because it means more people to join in on the fun. All right. And one question here. Daniel Evans wants to know, can they find her guilty of being criminally negligent, but not guilty of involuntary manslaughter? Or am I mixing up what charges they are going for? Well, criminal negligence is one of the elements of involuntary manslaughter. So if one of the other elements are not proven by the state or proven beyond reasonable doubt, then yeah, they could find that she's criminally negligent, but that other elements haven't been proven. The problem with that in this case is that the hardest one to prove is the criminal negligence piece. Because otherwise was someone else harmed by it? Yeah. I mean, no one disputes that Halyna Hutchins was harmed in the worst way by this. So, yeah. And also the vocal fry. That one, I get criticized for that too. I try so hard to not have a vocal fry, but every once in a while I see a comment about it and I'm like, dang it. It's one of those things that just kind of happens, I guess. I don't know. All right, let's get back to the testimony.
Well, I mean, I'm not everything.
Well, the statement that Ms. Gutierrez just made, that the prop cart had moved significantly after the incident, is that consistent with what she told you on October 21st?
No.
After the incident. So
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
not really,
All right, cool.
of a concern, but during lunch.
So during lunch, it was still in the same spot where I told you guys, front of the church, the doorway here, your guys' squad car over here that I was sitting in, my little cart over here next to a black tent.
This makes it easier for you.
Well,
Because I was actually gonna ask you to do that.
Stop. Yeah, so about over here. And there also was a black truck there earlier that day.
Okay.
So I'm right by that black tent.
Okay.
A little behind it because I don't want people, touching it.
Okay. So cart's there prior to you guys leaving for lunch, and it's in the same spot up.
And Corporal, how about the detail about the black truck? Is that something that was pointed out to you on the 21st, or is that new?
That's new.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where was the prop truck? Or is it that truck that's there?
The prop truck, The prop truck is, The prop truck's like all the way over here.
So down at like the end of the town.
Yeah, down at the end of the town, like way over there. Right as soon as you get in those gates, next to the gallows, it's across from the gallows.
There's a couple more.
Okay, cool.
Which might help, might not help, but
Yeah.
that's the search.
I was like, what
Without
the
all
fuck
the,
is that?
the Google Maps.
I was like, what the hell? Anyway,
So way down at the end.
yeah, it would be,
Corporal, do you recall what photograph you're handing her?
Yeah, so I'm not sure who took these photographs, but we were able to locate some aerial views online of the rust set, which is what I was showing her there.
Thank you.
that's why we kind of keep a lot of stuff on us because they don't like to move the prop truck, especially closer to the stuff. So it was pretty far away. You remember where you took me to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Past that.
So that's the like very.
Yeah, it was
town.
right like when you would maybe get pulled up and like the vans are there to take people.
Yeah.
That's where the prop truck usually stays.
So you guys have to pull guns from way down there and then bring them all the way.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like a pretty good distance.
It's a pretty good distance, and then that's why we also didn't want to bring the cart all the way back to the prop truck.
So it got left by that tent.
Yeah.
Nothing was too different about it after.
No, and we had done this a couple of times especially on like big shooting days and everything, just because we are out there like in the boonies with like sticks, snakes, all that crazy stuff, and big rocks. So yeah, a few times we just left it there during lunch.
Who all uses that cart?
Just me, Sarah, Nicole, props.
That's it though.
Yeah, that's it for the cart. Usually people will try to set their stuff on there and I quickly shoot them away. Some people still like to put their stuff on it to rile me. But yeah.
Is it more in a joking manner?
I don't know. They just they know I don't like them to do it and they still do it anyways, and
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's common to leave it out
Yeah.
when you guys break for lunch.
Mhm.
What about at night?
At night, we bring the cart in at night.
Where does it go?
It goes in the truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this day, there's obviously ammo on it
Mhm.
when it was left out.
Yes.
Okay. All right, after lunch, how many guns came back to set?
Okay. I'm pretty sure because we were getting into the nitty grits of it, we were about to start shooting indoors, and ultimately, we weren't going to be seeing the horses outside, so I didn't bring the two shotguns. I brought one of the shotguns of wooden drums. And so here's the thing about that day. I was bickering with the stunt coordinator all day because he wanted to shoot 2 pistols before every shot just to make smoke and everything in front of the camera. And I was like, no, that's just like extremely uncommon. And he's like, well, we did it on deck for $1. I was like, no, we're not doing that. But I brought a shotgun in case, like, you know, we could just do one big one if the director really wanted it, but we weren't planning on really doing it. It was just more of Joel, like, pushed for it. So we only brought the rust pistol, the drum pistol, and the wood pistol, and then also a shotgun.
Okay, and you guys pulled all 4 of those out at the same time?
Yeah.
Did anybody have to go back for anything?
I know that I think I brought him there, and then I immediately went to the bathroom after before we started getting into stuff.
Okay.
So I brought them to the set, and then I immediately had to go pee.
Did you already give Dave the gun?
No. At this point, no one had asked for the guns yet, and they were just supposed to be on the cart.
Okay. Did
In the
anybody
socks.
stay with Cart?
I told Sarah and Nicole too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were they still there when?
Sarah was flirting with Jensen, and I don't really remember if Nicole was nearby, but Sarah was pretty close to the cart still. Yeah.
All right. So 3 pistols, 1 shotgun. Nobody went back to the truck for anything.
I'm not entirely sure. I don't think I went back to the truck, and I don't think Sarah sent Nicole back to the truck. Like I said, I went to the bathroom, and I didn't really.
But no other guns were pulled out
No,
besides those 4.
they shouldn't have been pulled out. No.
What time did you come back from lunch?
I'm not entirely sure. Usually our lunch goes from 12:30 to like 1:30ish.
Okay. What time frame do you think there was between when you guys came back from lunch to you pulling the guns back out?
Coming back from lunch, you know, we get in the vans from base camp, so we probably take 5 minutes getting from the base camp to the set, and then from that point, we hop right off of the thing, and we grab the guns and everything, and we go straight over.
Okay.
Especially because, like, you know, you don't want to be late.
All right. So did you grab the cart, take it back to the prop truck, or did you just carry the guns?
We just carried from when we came back from lunch.
Mm-hmm.
We just carried the guns to the cart.
Okay.
Yeah, because we brought them there from the cart, brought them back from the truck to the cart after lunch.
Okay. And then who carried what guns?
I'm not exactly sure. They were still in the socks, you know.
You'd know if you carry a shotgun compared to a pistol, though, right?
Yeah, totally. Maybe Nicole was holding a shotgun and I had a pistol and Sarah had 2.
Okay.
Or maybe someone's holding, like, we all kind of just had to hold, like, gun belts, props, you know, not to mention, like, badges and things like that. So we're just all trying to carry all the shit that we have to bring every time.
Okay. So how long would you say, so you guys went straight from the prop truck, took him to the cart?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then obviously you have to take all these socks and everything off these guns. Who took them off?
So like I said, I went to the bathroom at this point. I'm not really sure if Sarah had started doing anything else from that point. All I remember is that I remembered the rust gun was dirty, and so I grabbed the rust gun, took it out of the sock, and proceeded to do the whole cleaning thing I told you about.
Okay. All right.
Which I thought it was pretty weird that, like, they immediately needed the gun in there, like, that quickly after lunch. Usually things take a little while for camera to get set up and everything, you know?
Okay. You cleaned the gun, put that last round in it, and then how long would you say that took?
Like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where does the gun go after that?
Excuse me. So the gun after that walks in with me and goes to Dave. Try to show it to Dave. Dave's getting talked at.
inside or outside of the church?
Inside. He's sitting in the pew, and I think he's supposed to be Russ or someone. And from what I understood, it was just supposed to be a shot where like he's sitting there with the gun ready. And then also Dave was just sitting in with it. And then I was going to come back in whenever Alec got there. But Alec got there and no one called me in.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to do that last check before Alec got it because I had no idea that the gun had been handed off. And also the video village, due to the camera crew quitting that day, wasn't working. So I had no way to see in there.
Okay. So you opened the gun for Dave
Mm-hmm.
to do the check,
Mm-hmm.
inside or outside of the church?
Inside.
Okay.
It was open already because, you know, I put it in there and I walked in putting it in and I just left it open. rather than
And what
closing
does
it.
that check consist of?
The check consists of me spinning the cylinder for Dave and telling him that it was gummied up.
Alright. Did that gun go to anyone else? Is that, did it go, because obviously it's in the sock. Did anybody else have a handle on that gun?
After lunch? Yeah. Not that I could tell. Yeah.
Okay. Did Nicole ever handle the gun? Russ's gun?
She only handled it the day before, just like brought it down to me from the cart.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not the day of the incident?
No.
All right. So you give it to Dave, and then where do you go at that point?
I give it to Dave, and I step outside because we're about to start shooting, and I was getting like all my stuff ready. And also he was.
What do you mean by getting your stuff ready?
Getting my fanny pack filled up, and getting my pockets like lined with different types of blanks and everything, because I have a pocket system where all the halves go on one side, all the quarters go over here. This is my dummy pocket, and yeah, these are my empty pockets, and sometimes I use my butt pockets if I need to. So like Sarah, usually I would just set my fanny pack up for her, even though I like to have both on me because Sarah doesn't understand the importance of pockets. But so I would set that up for her, and I would start getting my pockets and everything ready.
So it's pretty common for you to put stuff in like your pants pocket, right? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Common to put mostly blanks in there, yeah. And then also some trash, like you can't exactly just throw trash around and you eat stuff, so it's just a lot of pockets. That's why I like those pants. You can, yeah.
So you hand the gun to Dave, and then did you see what he did with it at that point?
At that point, he was just sitting in with it and not moving it at all. Just holding it.
Okay.
And his finger wasn't in the trigger guard or anything.
Obviously this gun goes in Alec's bandolier, does cross-draw with it.
Yeah. Which I was already worried about that because he hadn't really trained with that much.
Okay.
Yeah, I texted his assistant the night before and wanted to make sure that he was comfortable with that, but they said that he was fine and that, yeah, they were going to figure it out and stuff. So.
Do you have that text message still?
Yeah.
We do have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So he was just sitting with it. Obviously it's not in a holster.
No.
Did you see when he handed it to Alec?
No, I was outside.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't seem like that much time had gone by. I think I was outside for maybe like 10 minutes after I had handed it off to Dave.
That the incident happened?
Yeah.
Or?
Before, yeah, and then the incident happened like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. So you take it into the church and give it to Dave. Did you ever make an announcement about it being a cold gun or anything of the sort? What did you explain to Dave?
I told Dave, I said, the gun is dummied up.
Okay.
From lunch.
All right. Let's go back to this little guy right here. Where were you standing?
When it happened?
Yep.
I was at my cart.
You were at the cart when it happened?
Yeah. I think we had moved it up ever so slightly from that point. a little closer, or maybe it was back there and that truck had just moved, actually. I'm not really entirely sure. But yeah, I was right there, and I was getting my stuff ready.
Was this scene eventually supposed to contain, and I'm gonna say live fire, and it's not, but like blank fire?
The scene, what we had been doing all morning was supposed to lead up to the scene that we were supposed to be doing blank fire in, but this particular shot was not.
Okay. But eventually it would have gotten to that point pretty much.
Yeah.
All right. After the incident, I know that you had explained that you ran inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The incident occurred, and I like kind of didn't really flinch at it even. And Sarah said, "What was that?" And I said, "I don't know." And Sarah said, "Was that the gun?" And I said, "There's no way that could be the gun." And then next thing you know, I hear like in the earpiece, like, set medic emergency. And I'm like, oh, what the hell? And I thought it was like a popper that had blown someone's arm off or something. But I go over to the front of the church and I look in and I see people on the ground and I'm like, oh my God. And I said, was that the gun? And Dave said, yeah, it was the gun. And to which I go inside, scream, and then they yell at me. And then I walk back out. I ask for the gun. Dave brings me the gun.
When you were in there, did you see where the gun was?
No.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Yeah, so I'm, everyone's kind of staring and looking at me at this point. And walking in and seeing that was super fucking awful too. So I kind of come out here. I'm like over here at this point, kind of away from everything. They've brought me the gun. I take all of them out. The first one I take out has been discharged. And it, like I told you, at first I thought it could be one of those old dummies. But it could have been a live round by all means. And once you showed me that, what they pulled out of Joel later, yeah, it kind of seemed more like that. But yeah, so I pull all of them out and the other 5 were still dummies, just fine.
Okay. So Dave brings it out, hands it to you. Is it open or closed at this point?
It's closed.
Okay. Hands it to you. Where do you inspect it?
It was like still really a situation to me. So I was either right there or I was right there.
When you opened it?
When I checked the gun, I'm pretty sure I got it here and like we had kind of walked away with it, Yeah.
So you said that you emptied the gun, right?
Yeah.
Where did you empty it?
I took it out, put it in my hand, and then I handed them to Sarah, and I said, go check that fucking box. I got it from that box.
And what to Sarah?
The dummies and everything, and shell.
So everything that you
had in my hands went to Sarah.
just handed it to her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just handed it to her, and
I'm sorry, Corporal, just a point of clarification. What is Ms. Gutierrez saying that she handed to Ms. Zachary?
That she handed the ammunition that she took out of the revolver to Sarah.
Is that consistent with what she told you on October 21st?
No.
I took the gun and I kept it in my waistband after that.
Okay. You didn't go check the box?
No, I didn't go check the box. I was freaking out, and Brian, my boss, came over at that point, and Brian took me a little further away to, kind of relieve people looking at me.
And you told Sarah, I didn't want you to leave then after you told Sarah to check the button. What happened?
I said, check the box, and she comes over to me a little later, while I'm off to the side, and I said, did you check the box? And she said, and we also had collected the other guns, and Sarah took those as well. And then I was like, did you check the box? And she said, yeah, there were some bad ones in there. And I don't know really what that means. That's just what she said. And I thought that meant like 1 or 2.
Okay.
2 days later, Sarah came to my hotel room after Halyna Hutchins' one of her vigils. And she came up to my room and was checking on how I was doing. And I asked her, I was like, I can't believe somehow there were some bad ones in that box. And she said, Hannah, more than half of that box was bad ones.
And she didn't explain what she meant by bad ones.
She said more than half of that box were bad, which, I mean, it's safe to assume that live.
Okay.
At that point, yeah, it was safe to assume that those were live,
So
mixed in with dummies.
when you emptied out the gun, how many rounds were there?
There was 6.
Okay.
Yeah, one had been discharged.
And do we remember what that one looked like?
No, not really. I took it out at this point, like, still pretty shocked. I'm like shaking just thinking about everything. But so, I take it out and pull all the others out. I'm like showing them to Dave and I'm saying like, no, like the others are dummies. Like, what the fuck? How is that in there? And I just like look at Sarah and I like, after I said that, I was like, I don't know how that happened. They are all dummies except for one. And then I like looked at Sarah and I was like, go check that box right now. And I handed it to her. And so it was pretty quick. And I wasn't even like really looking at it. I was just more like looking at Dave and just.
Corporal, do you recall on October 21st what Ms. Gutierrez told you in terms of handing the box to Sarah and telling Sarah to check the box?
No, she didn't mention anything about telling Sarah to check it.
Okay. So is that different than what she told you on the 21st?
Yes.
Freaking out at that point.
How did you know that one wasn't a dummy?
I'm not sure that it wasn't a dummy still. I mean, now we know really that it could have been a live round, but in my head, I was thinking that might have been one of the old dummies that the primer cap can pop it out.
Okay.
Because those, I don't know, those still, I haven't heard a lot of reports of those, but I know that those did used to exist.
Okay. So after a gun was emptied, I mean, how'd
Do you mind if we take a break?
Yeah,
I'm like
we can do that.
getting a little flustered.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Now you're getting flustered.
The restroom okay too?
Yeah.
It's been a little.
Restroom.
What's this room? I'm like, you get a little stuffy. Totally.
Yeah, one.
Yeah, she certainly doesn't come across like some kind of a wallflower here.
Ms. Morrissey, do you know how much longer? I'm wondering if we should take our bathroom break.
Yeah, Your Honor, that's fine, and we weren't anticipating there being downtime, so we'll see if we need to move the video ahead.
Okay, all right, let's take our bath break. Please don't talk among yourselves or
Right.
anyone else about the evidence received here in court.
Okay, we can definitely skip ahead.
Okay, we are resuming the video at 2:09:08, which is the end of the break of the people on the camera.
Good.
Oh, good. I'm good.
It's fine, I just.
Yeah.
I was
I'm like, your poor dog. Oh, I know, right?
I don't think we changed anything. My guess is that when they stop laughing, it's gonna go back to normal audio. Can we just try it and see?
Sure, just a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
They're okay, they're outside, but they can handle it. The weather, yeah.
Oh, mine stay outside.
Okay, great.
It must be that they're just standing closer to the mic or
I'm not
something.
sure. I have a 8-month-old German Shepherd who
Oh,
is,
cute.
oh no, he's
Oh,
great.
Oh, German
terror.
Shepherd puppies are
Absolute
cute.
hell.
Terror,
He's pretty horrid right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
cute. That's
Mine I had a German Shepherd, like a young one, a few years ago, and like she totally like chewed up all my panties and fucking trashed all my plants.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't let him inside like at all. He used crate trains in the beginning because I just wasn't gonna deal with that.
Yeah.
I normally don't crate train my dogs, but I've only had huskies, and so this was the first different one that I had, and he's like the most intelligent thing ever, but he is like reckless, like
Yeah.
he's insane. Like,
Oh, man.
but I got him because I wanted to breed.
Oh, yeah. Those huskies are pretty.
Oh yeah.
The huskies.
I love calling German Shepherds. I like calling them Herman Jeffords. I think it's fun.
Tylen Gann, thanks for the super chat. Why on earth is the attorney allowing her to incriminate herself?
I know, right? Yeah, I literally
Why not
stretched
stop
it
her
here.
when she
You'll
overspeaks?
see
Do
it.
they not rehearse? She's forced to be there. So if I was her attorney, I mean, yeah, I would have treated it like
yeah,
I
I
said
totally
before.
had you and Alex mixed up.
I would have
That's
treated
so
it like
funny.
a deposition.
I
In this
know,
case,
I
go
know. That's what
over
I'm saying.
what
I had you guys.
you'll be
Like, I
asked,
thought she was
what you'll be
Alex,
talking
and I
about.
talked to her like most of the time. Then I didn't even realize.
So I don't.
That's Samantha.
I don't know why the attorney did what he did or didn't do what he didn't do.
Corporal, who's the gentleman that just entered the room?
That is Detective Joel Cano.
Thank you.
Derek Boodle, who do you trust more, a surgeon with a New England accent or a surgeon with a Mississippi accent? Hey, I'll say I've known some very intelligent people from Mississippi and some very dumb
Going
but
back
lovable
to
people from
those
New
pants
England.
that were in your
So I don't know.
It's common for you to carry them in your pocket.
Yeah. My dad usually carries a couple of like his favorite dummies, you know, like good
Firm
nice big
Jason,
ones in
thanks
his
for your
pocket, and I
concern.
do.
I had some coffee
We had,
before getting
3
started.
guns dummied
It's
up
just
that day, so I
the
used a
interview is
couple of
kind of
them.
dragging in some parts.
Is that why you keep them in your pocket? Is that why you?
Yeah, because just in case, and then also I have another.
I'll pause this too to answer this one. Miss Fitness 3, doesn't she have a deposition by prosecution? I think that the number of interviews that she gave probably meant that she didn't need to give a deposition. I mean, she just gave so much information. So I don't think that there is a deposition outside of these
In
interviews.
the bag, on the bottom of it, you'll
I
probably
could be
realize
mistaken,
that there's
though.
also some dummies in those pockets down there too. I try to keep like at least a good 12 dummies ready in situations.
Those are, but you're talking about the like bags, though, right? I'm talking
So-
about your pants.
Yeah, I'm talking about my pants. Yeah, okay, yeah, I always try to keep like at least 5 or 6 in there.
Do you remember where you pulled those from?
Those came out of one of my old boxes, and we had been using them from the weekend previous, and those were the ones with no primer caps.
So did you have those in your pocket prior to going to lunch?
No, those should have been in the gun already.
No, I'm talking about the ones that were in your pocket, so.
Yeah, the four without primer caps.
I think you pulled 6 rounds, 6 or 7 out of your pocket.
No, I'm pretty sure I pulled the 4 out of there, and then I got the other 2 from the box and shook them as I walked.
No, I'm talking, so the night that you came in for an interview.
Oh yeah, I had some extras in there. I think I found some more, and I was like, I'll put some more in there just in case.
But do you remember when you put those in your pocket?
No, not exactly.
Before or after lunch?
I don't really remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So then how come you didn't pull from your pockets to load that gun?
Well, I like I told you, I pulled those out earlier, and I totally forgot that there were more in there.
More in where?
More dummies in my pocket.
Okay.
Yeah, I just had forgotten that they were there.
That one last one that you pulled to load the gun, do you remember checking that round?
Yeah.
And what do you remember about it?
Seemed fine to me, and Dave was just kind of in my ear, and so I was shaking it, walking in, and putting it in there.
Okay.
Saying Dave was in my ear, that's helpful to the defense. A little bit, anyway.
I just want to follow up on a few things. Um, over the break, did you have an opportunity to review some of the evidence photos?
Yes.
And did those refresh your memory?
Yes.
The rounds that were found on the top of the prop cart, and I'm not asking about blanks, how many dummy rounds were found on the top of the prop cart, assuming we've gotten the true story that the gun was unloaded at the prop cart?
There were 3 dummy rounds on the top of the prop cart.
And how many live rounds were on the top of the prop cart?
2.
And of the 3 dummy rounds that were on the top of the prop cart, did any of them appear to have depressed primers?
One looked like it had like a semi-depressed primer.
And what about the others?
That they did have primers.
That did not appear depressed.
Correct.
And obviously the live rounds did not have depressed primers.
Right.
Were you also able to, were you also able to refresh your memory as to the dummy rounds that Ms. Gutierrez had in her pocket on October 21st during your interview?
Yes.
And how many dummy rounds, if you recall, did she pull out of her pocket to show you during the interview?
She had 6 total.
And of those 6, how many of those had no primer cap at all?
5 of them had no primers, and then one of them was one that she demonstrated the rattled, so the one with the BBs in it.
So you are now familiar with all the different types of dummy rounds that were on that movie set, correct?
Yes.
So if Ms. Gutierrez loaded the gun with dummies and then spun the cylinder for Mr. Halls, would spinning the cylinder enable him to know whether they're dummies or not?
The only way that he would be able to tell just by spinning the cylinder would be with the ones that did not have the primer caps on them. Other than that, if they had a primer cap, he would not be able to tell if they were dummies.
And none of the rounds on the cart were missing primer caps.
Correct.
But she had 5 of them in her pocket.
Yes.
That presumably she did not use to load that gun with.
Correct. She did state that she did not pull any rounds out of her pocket to load that gun.
All right. Thank you for the clarification.
In other words, what she's getting at there is saying it is possible to check the cylinder to see if they're dummy rounds, but only if they don't have that primer, right? If it basically has a hole in the back. And she had said that she unloaded the rounds after the incident and put them on the prop cart. None of those rounds had a lack of primer. So in other words, when David Halls saw her check by opening the cylinder, none of those would have lacked a primer. In other words, there's no way for him to have known with that check that those were dummy rounds.
No, he was in my ears, like, and
your radio.
yeah, there's always a fucking people in my ears. It's not the voices. It's not the voices. It's a ton of people, and you'll see me a lot of the times on set. Just take that thing out and throw it as far as I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't remember when
That's
those
how I
ones-
knew when he was telling me. Yeah, I don't remember exactly when those were in my pockets, and honestly, they might have been in my pockets, in a spot where they aren't normally, you know.
Okay. All right, so I have some questions regarding like media statements that you guys have put out.
Okay, yeah.
And
Just so you know, like, one of them with Bob got a little crazy, and Bob.
You.
All right, approaching. Maybe we can fast forward a little bit since we're behind enough. Ooh, this is a bit of a long sidebar. Okay. Yeah, this is kind of a long.
Sure how, trial's fluid, okay? So we're going to take a break, and you'll have to wait in the deliberation room. Don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. And when we think we're ready for you again, we'll tell the bailiffs. Okay? Thank you.
Interesting. And I wonder if we're going to get to see or hear. I'm going to wait to fast forward. Kitty, kitty. Okay, so it looks like, all right, they're just doing a normal sidebar. Interesting. Okay. So we can't hear it, unfortunately. I was hoping that since the jury isn't in the room, that maybe we would get to hear it. But I guess not. Let's just fast forward. Okay. All right. So now it's okay. Ooh, this is a bit of a long sidebar. So we were like 17 minutes behind. Now if we go to live.
About how you wanted training days.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Dang it. I'm sorry, guys. YouTube messed me up there. Okay. Oh, we're almost caught up now. That's good. Okay.
All right, you may be seated.
We apologize for the delay. We are resuming the video at 2:15:03 for the record.
So the first one was about training.
By the way, Mr. Bites just walked in and he told me his vote for the current poll. For him, he says it makes it not a factor, or her agent and experience is not a factor for him. Just so you guys know, I'll end the poll soon.
Training days. You made a statement about how you wanted training days.
Yeah.
Who did you express that to?
Gabrielle.
Okay.
Yeah, and I asked about it to Ro and Gabrielle. Right from the get-go, I tried to start getting actors and everything to start working with me. Kind of one a day would have been ideal. They told me, they were like, well, no one really needs to get trained. You know, these are all trained people. And I was like, okay, whatever. I thought that more actors were coming in later and I would train them as the show went on. But then Joel called me and Joel was like, no, we need to train like all the actors. They're going to be there that first week. And I said, okay. So yeah, they set up a training day, but I was trying to get them in from like the very get-go.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, the statement was that you fought for training days.
I did.
So,
Yeah, I was always pretty much arguing with Gabrielle and friggin', because at first I didn't even want to have the training day, you know. So
they're expecting people to just.
yeah, no, they literally did not want to have that training day at first, and they told me it wasn't necessary. And then after Joel called me, Joel told them like, no, don't be.
It's not us this time.
Just let me,
Okay.
don't panic.
Some kind of technical issue.
You got a zip right here.
I know. Thank you. Kyle Mulkey, thanks so much for the super chat. Why weren't there any COVID regulation questions? Could be why she kept leaving or why everything was hectic on set. I don't know. I'm wondering if maybe the defense like polled some people to see if that was like, a lot of times they'll do like a mock trial with a mock jury. And it could be that COVID stuff didn't really poll very well with them. I don't know. But it does seem like a very, very, very plausible reason for why she wasn't allowed in for a lot of this stuff. Jerry Roth, do we need all 2 hours of this video? I feel like you play clips. Maybe it's just me. There's often a fight about that kind of thing because how you clip it can be contentious because it can leave out context. Maybe there are parts of this that the defense wants to have in. So, yeah, I don't know. That may be why they just decided, every bit of information that she's giving is like helpful to someone, maybe, or I don't know, or just for context.
Testing check.
Austin SA wants to know, do we know who's paying her defense bills? Is it something? Is something like Traveler's going to make an appearance later? I don't know. I actually don't know. I would hope that she had some kind of insurance, but I don't know. I don't have information on that. I wonder actually. Eric Hunley popped in the chat at the beginning of this stream. If he's around and watching, maybe he can let us know. I'm sure he's got that kind of background information. He knows like all the details of this case. He's been in contact with a lot of people related in various ways to the case, I should say. So we're still working on tech issues, huh? Cat Love Dreaming Peach wants to know if she's not allowed to do her job properly, then that means she's not as liable, yes or no. That's what the defense is definitely going for. This is what they are hoping for. But it's up to the jury to make that determination. Waldo, training days are normally mandatory in something like this. And the question is, is that something that is going to undercut her liability? Is that going to kind of give her a pass that she wasn't allowed to have the proper training days with the actors that she wanted to have? I don't know. Jerry Rothweil, the tech issues. By day 5, this shouldn't still be an issue, should it? I mean, well, okay. One of the things is I think the judge, or no, Carrie Morrissey said this time it's not us. So like it seems like before this point, the tech issues have been by the prosecution and their equipment or something, but now it seems to be that this is the courtroom like system that's maybe at fault here. Like you can see up there, you've got some IT person that's probably court staff with maybe the clerk. I'm not sure. Yeah, Nomad Purple, real armorer may testify she should have walked off set. Yes, I would expect there to be some armorer to testify as an expert on behalf of the state. Especially because like from what I have heard, armorers in general are like they want to uh they want to I don't know if crucify her is the appropriate word, but they definitely want to see her go up in flames over this. Maybe partly because it makes all armorers look bad, right? Um, but yeah, apparently they're supposed to have some kind of an armorer testify as an expert, which if they don't, that's a terrible idea. They really should. They really should. But the defense is also going to have some experts from Hollywood as well talking about the onset conditions and like what they should have been able to expect on set in order to facilitate Hannah's job actually working. Sebastian, thanks for the super chat. Hannah, thank you, lawyer, because you are going to prison. I mean, we'll see. We will see. Although, to be fair to her lawyer, a lot of criticism for his role in this interview here, but there's been plenty that has been going on here that is 100% her own fault. You know, it's like at this point, the state's best witness is Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. You know what I mean? Like regardless of Bowles' role. I think so far his performance in the trial overall has been really great, all things considered. You can only do so much with a really crappy case that has really crappy facts, right? I know a lot of people disagree about the dolly grip guys, you know, the Heisenberg dolly grip guy. You know, how that cross-examination happened there. In hindsight, looking at it, I actually watched it a second time afterwards. And yeah, I mean, there are some things that I would have done differently strategically. Um, and I think that there are some things that he did get a little bit down and dirty in a couple questions there, but overall, I think it was a good cross. You've got to be, if you're going to be a criminal defense attorney, you've got to be willing to make yourself the enemy for some witnesses just so that you can adequately represent your client. That's just part of the job. This is one reason why there are people who just hate criminal defense attorneys um in general, right? Like they just hate them overall because they have that impression of them that they are going to get down and dirty and ask, you know, really shitty questions to make a witness uncomfortable when they shouldn't be, you know. Um that said, would I have taken the same strategy as him? I don't think so. I think that there was a way for him to cross-examine the dolly grip guy without trying to undercut his credibility in terms of his like emotions and his presentation as like a human being on the stand. Like he could have just gone up there and started off by like using all of the emotions that were on display in the direct examination. He could have basically like sort of like what's the word for it? I'm totally missing the word, but like, you know, he could have, oh man, okay. Well, I guess now we're live and on the seal. Um, well then, I'll keep explaining here. I think that he could have used all of the emotions that were on display on direct examination, the anger, the sadness, all of that kind of stuff, and talked about all of the other people that the Dolly Grip was blaming, and talk about how you say, like, okay, you filed this lawsuit, and in that lawsuit, you talk about Alec Baldwin, you talk about David Halls, you talk about, this person, that person. You don't talk about Hannah Gutierrez-Reed in that lawsuit, do you? No. Okay. And now, but today what you're saying is X. Then you can, like, at the end of that, start to get a little bit more heated, but you sort of lull them into a, hey, we're on the same team side at the beginning. But yeah, anyway, but that's a strategic choice, and so that's, not everybody's going to do things in the same way. And of course, this is me Monday morning quarterbacking, really Tuesday morning quarterbacking, right? Because even it took me watching it a second time to really sit and think about it. To really think in those terms and to see it that way. Sebastian, thanks for the super chat. He didn't stop her talking though. I agree. Yeah, I don't think he performed well as her attorney during that interview at all. Let's see here, more questions. Luna X Nova, he is such a great lawyer on cross. It baffles me he let her do this interview, unless maybe she insisted. No, I think it was the police that insisted, probably. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know how that happened. This is an interesting comment. Squector. I'm still firmly on the guilty side, but there honestly should be more people charged, at least civilly charged, because there's a lot of blame to spread around with that shit show operation. Well, there have been quite a few lawsuits. There have been quite a few lawsuits against Alec Baldwin, against David Halls, I believe, against a number of people. So, oh, are we back? So yeah. Christina. Oh, okay. I guess we're not back. Christina Kirschner. When defense was lighting up Dolly Grip guy, Legalbytes and most of chat was rooting him along in real time. I mean, it's because I still stand by my emotional reaction because of the fact that, to me, what it felt like, it was just the sudden flip of emotions that made his prior emotional display, which during the direct examination, I was fully convinced of his sincerity. It was that sudden shift that made me was a little bit jarring for me, and made me wonder if this is someone who is playing up those emotions. Maybe he experienced those and he feels those, but he's playing them up more for a jury, partly because of the fact that he has a personal incentive. The fact that a lot of this is the responsibility of the prosecution, in my opinion, because of the fact that the prosecutor, Carrie Morrissey, did not bring up his civil lawsuit on direct exam. When you do that, that's what we call a bad fact. Bad facts, when brought up for the first time on cross-examination, are even worse facts, because it makes it look like you are trying to hide it from the jury. So when the jury is learning something suddenly new on cross-examination, it makes it look like, oh, okay. And so that makes it feel like already it's being hidden. And then his evasiveness on all of those questions made me feel like, is he trying to hide the fact that he's, suing civilly, which of course the only remedy that you can really get from that is money. Like that's what you do in a civil lawsuit. But there's a way to explain, like, yeah, I'm still doing this for the right reasons, because, I have to ask for money in order to have a civil lawsuit.
Okay. Okay. Better get going.
So anyway, so to me, it started to feel like someone was involved in a tragedy in some way, saw a tragedy, was there for it, and then was trying to take advantage of a tragedy for personal reasons and personal gain, which that never sits right with me. So that's why I was having a strong emotional reaction there. Oh wait, are people leaving for lunch? Hang on. Let me rewind a little bit here.
Okay. Speak up, come on. Okay. Okay, okay. Better get going.
Wait, so then that was it? I don't see anything about a lunch break. Okay. Well, it is like 11:17 a.m., I think, something like that. So, anyway, so that was the basis of my emotional reaction on that one. Um Now, obviously not everybody felt the same way about that one. There are plenty of people who were completely turned off by the cross-examination style. And I can totally see that 100%. And so that's one of the reasons why taking a different strategy would have probably been a better approach to that one, because that kind of a strategy is going to split people into one or two camps, either folks that are like, oh, this guy, is trying to manipulate my emotions and I don't like that, or this guy is getting beat up on unfairly who's actually gone through a real tragedy. There are two different ways of doing, and those are both very strong reactions that people are going to have to that. So if you want people to be on your side, it's maybe better to take a strategy that isn't going to necessarily create that kind of an emotional divide, and instead use all of that emotion in your favor by getting that guy on your team. So, anyway. All right, moving on down. Derek Boodle, Heisenberg was going to cry. It's his nature. I mean, I don't know how you can say that unless you know him personally. I think that it would be regardless of if he is amplifying those emotions or not, it's understandable for anyone to have been there for that experience to cry on the stand while talking about it. So, I do think that there was legitimacy in his emotion. Whether he was playing that up or not is something a little bit different. So, anyway. Moving on down. This is an interesting question. Bees. We heard that no way Halls could tell by looking at it. So should Baldwin have taken ammo out of his gun and shaken them? If so, why even hire an armorer if we expect the actor to check his own gun? What he could have done is said, "Hey, I want the armorer to check this in front of me." That's really what would have happened, rather than expect him to take it out and know what to do in order to check it. But instead to say, "I want each of these rounds to be checked by the armorer in front of me. I'm not comfortable enough with this the way that it looks." And that is what coulda, shoulda, woulda happened. Austin S.A. Speaking of other lawsuits, do we know what happened to HDR's suit against Seth Kenney that got dismissed? I mean, it would have just gotten dismissed. There wouldn't be any kind of a result from that if it was just dismissed outright. Let's see here. Jeff Kane, will the jury know first guilty option is up to 18 months, second guilty option is up to 18 months plus mandatory 5 years? They will have actually maybe not. I don't know if the sentencing is bifurcated from liability in this trial. So I was about to say that they will know what the what the sentencing consequences would be, but maybe not. All right. Moving on down. Jerry Roth. I think my issue with this case is that we blame Hannah only. Alec Halls, the production company, whomever hired Hannah after one job are all guilty, and even Hannah together all guilty. Well, the thing to keep in mind though is that it may feel that way, but this is also Hannah's trial. This is the trial where we are looking at specifically Hannah's liability, Hannah's culpability. Alec Baldwin is going to have the same thing where people talk about all the mistakes that other people made, and yet we are talking about his liability there. David Halls would have had the same thing, but he took a plea deal. So that's something that the prosecution really is really going to need to make clear to the jury, is that you can have multiple people be at fault at the same time, but other people being at fault, you can't consider, this trial is only about Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's fault. It's not about the fault of anyone else. So I I don't know how much they can really go into, like, other people will have their day in court as well. Um, but I don't know how much they can actually go down that road, but they can at the very least say, like, this just so happens to be Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's trial. Tish wants to know, do you think her dad had enough information to know the extent of how irresponsible she was? This must affect his reputation as well. Would her lawyers tell him about how bad it is? I mean, there's also a lot on social media and elsewhere that one can find all kinds of opinions on this case. Um, and I don't know your first question. I'm not sure if you mean at the time of the incident or at some point afterwards. Um, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I do think that it would impact his reputation for sure. I mean, because he was like a big reason why she got that job in the first place, right? So, and if she says she was trained by him, by the great Thel Reed, the well-known armorer in Hollywood, the guy who is armorers in Hollywood, according to her in the interview. Yeah, it's a bad look for him. It is. It is. Because you can see a lot of the incompetence that she has unfolding as this trial unfolds. And at the same time, which I mean, which at this it just it looks bad for what he taught her. What did he actually teach her? So, moving on down the line, looking for more questions here. Ah, you meant how bad her situation is. So in other words, does her dad know how bad her situation is, legally speaking, I think you mean? Um, I don't know. It's hard to know because, you know, the attorneys really shouldn't be giving much information out, to family members about the case, because then that kinda destroys some privilege, or potentially destroys some privilege. So, I wouldn't be surprised if, he was kept in the dark on some aspects at least. But yeah, I'm not sure. Bees, from what I've seen, the armorer normally does this in front of everyone who's on set, not the actor, the armorer themselves, as costume. Sometimes even was on set and witnessed this. I mean, that's what they've explained here, right? Is that the typically the armorer is going to perform the check in front of other people to make everybody else comfortable with the presence of a firearm, because a lot of people, generally speaking, are not comfortable in the presence of a firearm. That didn't happen here for probably a number of reasons, but, another thing that has been said is that anyone who is on set there can request a check to be done in front of them. So like I said, if Alec Baldwin demanded a check, he would have the armorer come in and check the firearm right in front of him. It wouldn't necessarily be him doing it. Moving on down, looking for more questions. Oh, also, Scout Anna Bradley, thank you so much for the super chat. Can we see split the verdict sad a comp? I'm not sure what sad a comp means, but can they split the verdict? No, it's got to be unanimous. In any criminal case, it has to be unanimous. Ah, Sandy, thanks for this. Per Eric, Hannah's attorney is pro bono. Good to know. Good to know. I wonder if he did that because of for the publicity, perhaps. Moving on down. So David Puff, the dolly grip could have been shot himself, watched it get shot, and held the director. Give him a break. Let the man sue. No, I don't have a problem with him suing anyone. I do not have a problem with him suing anyone at all. The problem was in his responses to questions about the lawsuit that gave an impression that he was being evasive, that he was being a little bit shady, which made it seem like he might not be doing it for the right reasons, or at least he might not be. There's a good chance that he's being dishonest about the reasons for which he's filed the lawsuit. That was the problem for me personally. It had nothing to do with the fact of him filing a lawsuit. And I will say it could very well be that he has good reasons for it and he feels confident in it and he knows what he's doing with that and he trusts his lawyers and all that kind of stuff, and that he just was not prepared well enough for that cross-examination. If he was not prepared for those questions, I would be enraged with the legal team, either whoever was responsible for prepping him, which I would think is Carrie Morrissey, since she's the one that did his direct examination. But even his own lawyer who was there in the courtroom could have, sat him down and talked to him about, like, all right, there's a good chance that our civil lawsuit is going to come up. So let's talk about it real quick. This is, let's get comfortable with some uncomfortable questions. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Absolutely. Asking about the lawsuit on cross-examination is entirely proper, entirely appropriate, even though it makes people uncomfortable. On cross-examination, you've got to put people into an uncomfortable place in order to get to the truth with the truth with a capital T. That's just what has to happen. So, I am not going to be anyone who is going to begrudge someone for filing a lawsuit, especially coming out of a traumatic event. Like I said, it's just the manner in which he answered those questions that made me think that maybe he was not doing it for the right reasons. And that made me personally feel icky about it. So, but I understand that not everybody had the same impression from it. Moving on down the line. Also, let's see here. Oh, a Scout and a Bradley. Thanks for another super chat. What I meant is they want to punish her, but don't find her guilty on murder. Then they punish her for the evidence. Oh, I mean, I think that involuntary manslaughter is a relatively easy thing to convict someone for if they want to. So I don't I don't know. I mean, I guess yes, it is possible. It is possible for them to acquit on involuntary manslaughter and convict on evidence tampering. Absolutely. Those two charges are not connected to one another. You don't have to find one for the other. But would that likely happen if they want to find her guilty here? It's probably going to be for the involuntary manslaughter thing because that's the one that got someone killed. Alrighty. Excuse me. Yeah, Heather Price, I that's the impression that I had also, but again, not everybody feels the same way. The impression I got from his testimony is that the emotions were played up for his own purpose since he has a lawsuit. The emotional flip felt so forced. It was that flip for me. It was the flip for me too. Yeah. Puel and Ivis, please remember David Halls has already pled no contest and will be facing consequences. Agree. Agreed. Yeah. And that's going to get brought up either on direct or on cross examination. If the state is going to call him as a witness, it would be very smart of them to bring up his charges and his guilty plea and all that stuff. From maybe I don't know about on the outset, but in his direct examination. Let's see, moving on down. Shona M72. How long is the trial expected to last? Until March 7th? 6th. March 6th is the last day. So next Wednesday. Little under a week from now. Let's see here. Austin SA, wasn't it George Clooney who said he never would have done what Baldwin did? That Baldwin was outside industry standards. 100%. There was a podcast like really like days after the incident happened, and George Clooney was just like he just went like absolutely no one should ever do this what happened here while on a film set, which actually when I listened to that podcast, I actually included a clip of it in one of my videos on the Baldwin case. But I remember when I listened to it, I was like, you know, does the state want to try to bring in George Clooney as like an expert on, on the industry and see if he can testify against Alec Baldwin? Like that would be pretty wild. Let's see here. Joanne David Halls got 6 months probation, unsupervised, $500 fine, and community service. He has to testify when asked. Also, that's it. Yep. Yep. Jason Chambers says, I think all the other culpability minimizes sentencing, but doesn't change the guilty verdict. She's guilty. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, that could impact her ultimate sentencing. And if it's bifurcated, it's probably going to be determined by the judge. Yeah, has one. Alita, 100%. This is Hannah's trial. We can all agree that others should have consequences, but this is about HGR. Her being found guilty doesn't mean others are not also facing consequences. Yeah, exactly. Shona M72, are you going to cover the Trump trials? Probably not. I usually try to stay away from political cases, generally speaking, although this one does have some political need. I mean, anytime you deal with a gun case, there's going to be some kind of a political concern that people will have. But no, there's a lot of other stuff that needs covering, and that's already getting covered by plenty of other people. All right. Moving on down. Bees says COVID is her best defense. That would explain why she loaded and showed to AD instead of the whole cast and crew. At least that could be argued. Not sure why. Sure, if it would work with the jury. Yeah, I don't know why they're not bringing up COVID like at all from the defense. But yeah. Live court is on a break. We'll be right back. Okay. I'm gonna get a couple more questions here. Okay, let me see if I can find these because I'm just kind of going down the list here. And then we'll break too and go to the afternoon stream. Jerry Roth, is the camera on the seal due to a break? So I thought it was a tech issue, but it seems to be now that this is the lunch break. I wish the judge would have said something about it. Okay. Sorry, guys. Moving on down, just trying to find some of these questions. Iglo Pop, so how much time is involuntary manslaughter usually minimum? I don't know if it has a minimum. I know the maximum is 18 months. So I don't know. Let's see here. Here, so the Lucian, the evidence tampering one is still complete BS. It needs to be evidence of a crime, and if it's the crime of the live round, then no evidence related. If it's crime of possession, then why no charge? Yeah, why didn't they charge her for possession of drugs? Because if they charged her for possession of drugs, that is completely unrelated to the issue of the incident here. But by charging her with evidence tampering, that they can connect to this shooting incident. Why is that important? So that they can put it all together and talk more about drugs related to Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. Drugs on their own are going to be highly prejudicial. But if they are more relevant than prejudicial, it's coming in. And so because of the fact that they were able to make the connection between the drugs and the incident through the evidence tampering charge, they're able to talk about a whole lot more drugs and alcohol used by or allegedly used by Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. So that's why the prosecution went for evidence tampering as opposed to just possession. At least that's what I think. That's my own analysis. All right, moving on down. Okay. Nomad Purple. Do George Clooney and Alec Baldwin have beef? No idea. Doctor Who 8675309. What does George Clooney mean by this? You mean the entire production shenanigans or shooting itself? I think he was talking about the actual shooting. And what it's been a minute since I listened to the podcast, but what I remember is it sounded like he was really, really harping on Alec Baldwin's behavior on set in particular. I think what he was saying is that every single time there's a gun brought on set, I make sure that it's checked in front of me. I make sure that everyone sees that it's been checked. Like it was, and he did not mince any words at all on that podcast about what should have happened and what everybody in the industry overall knows should happen ever since Brandon Lee died. Everybody who has been in the industry since then, people talk about the Brandon Lee thing. And so ever since then, we've said never again. I mean, it was like that. It was a lot like that he was just like, and I think for him, I think he mentioned that Brandon Lee had actually been a friend of his. So that may be why he's so passionate about it. Might be mistaken, but I think that's what he had said, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, it was a fiery bit of conversation there that he was just like, how in the hell does anyone who's been in this industry do this or not do this rather? Debbie Faison Cook, what is the point of unsupervised probation? It's a slap on the hand. That's what it is. It's punishing someone, but not really punishing someone, because what they really wanted out of him was his testimony, particularly against Alec Baldwin, but Hannah Gutierrez-Reed as well, but mostly Alec Baldwin. He's the big fish that they want. Let's see here, moving on down. All righty. Looking for more here. I think we're getting close, I think. Mandy Bo Bandy. I've never worked on a film or commercial where the attorney was just hanging around. How did the lawyer get there so fast? I mean, I've never worked on a film set or a commercial myself, so I don't know. Maybe she was there full time. That's a lot to pay someone for those hours, considering they were on a very tight budget. I don't know. She may have just been local counsel that they had hired. I really don't know. Moving on down. Joanne, why not test for drugs after the death of someone? Well, the defense is gonna point this out at some point. They're gonna point this out at some point that no one tested her for drugs that day, and that's gonna be a problem for the state also, because they're gonna try to get there to say she was doing drugs while working on set, but I don't think they have that evidence. I think that at most they have kind of what we saw the other day with the text messages about her like having a smoke or something like that. So, that, and then like, do you have my stuff? I want to get my stuff back. It's probably going to be more like that. Or maybe someone, I do know that there is, I think it was Sarah Zachary was in Hannah's hotel room, and saw drugs in the hotel room, and then also saw ammunition in the hotel room. It's that testimony that actually, convinced the judge that there was just enough of a nexus to connect the tampering charge with the involuntary manslaughter charge, and to not sever them into two separate trials. But yeah, that's the fact that they didn't drug test her is gonna come up. Mountain Princess 207, at this point, would you have her testify? I don't know. I really don't know, because here's the thing. I mean, I've some folks that I've been chatting with, behind the scenes in LawTube, have said that, like, basically because of the interviews, she has to testify. She has to. She's got it. She's got to try to shore up, with the things that she said in the police interviews. I don't know that there is a way for her to come back from that. I really don't know. I think that the damage has been done. I also have not seen the full interviews yet, but number one, it's always a very dangerous thing for a criminal defendant to testify, particularly if it's not a self-defense case. Like, if it's a self-defense case, you kind of need them to testify, because you need testimony of what's inside their brain to say that they were in reasonable fear of their life, or reasonable fear of someone else's life at risk. But where it's not a self-defense case, generally speaking, the general wisdom is don't let them testify, because there are more ways in which it can go wrong than in which it can go right. And I talked about this in my primer video too, that if she testifies and I mentioned it earlier today too, if she testifies, it will come in that the motorcycle incident will come in where she apparently lied to the police about giving the keys to her noticeably drunk boyfriend before he got on a motorcycle to go ride with his buddy on a separate motorcycle, and then they crashed and the boyfriend died. And then that resulted in a civil lawsuit, and then that settled out. The lawsuit, the settlement, those are likely not going to come in. Well, the judge already expressly said those can't come in. Same thing about the fact of the boyfriend dying. But the reason that they can bring that in is because she lied to the police. She lied to the police about not giving him keys. She initially told the police that she had given the keys to the other guy. I don't know why she said that. I don't know what difference that made for her situation. It's not entirely clear. There's only so much information in the motions in limine on this, but I would imagine it's because of the fact that he maybe wasn't injured in the incident. So I don't know, but yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. Would I have her testify? I'm still leaning towards no. I'm still like at this point, I'm leaning towards no because I see her causing more harm than good at this point. With testifying, there's already a lot of harm here with her interviews. But then again, I don't know what kind of behind the scenes conversations and preparations they've made that maybe she would perform much better and she would perform much more sympathetically and she would perform in a way that shows that she understands the gravity of the situation and kind of explains what the hell was going on there. You know, like in the first in-station interview and the second in-station interview, like what was happening there? What was going through her brain? And why did she think it was a good idea to be so chatty Cathy and blasé in that second interview? And like, yeah, I don't know. I still think that I don't think it's a good idea. Joanne, did Hannah have issues on set with Nicolas Cage? Apparently so. I've read about this that she was responsible for an on-set discharge, which I don't think it was an unintentional discharge, but the problem is she never warned anyone around her that she was about to fire a firearm, and he got very upset, understandably, because like that would upset anyone to hear a gunshot when you don't expect it. And he basically was like, I'll never work with her again. Apparently, allegedly, this is what I have read. Someone asked earlier if that would come in. I don't know if I think I answered it. That kind of an incident is entirely unrelated to this case, even though it does involve firearms. Yes, it does involve safety and all that kind of stuff, but it's an entirely separate incident. So that would be propensity or character evidence. You can't guarantee, like, the fact that she did something on a past experience does not automatically mean that she's going to do the same thing and make the same decision again. After all, humans often learn from their experiences, not always, but often do. So you can't just say she did it before one time, so therefore she's done it again. It's human nature to think that. But that's why in courts they don't allow it, because it's not good logic to get there. Yellow or angered, would she be able to undo damage if she testifies? Hypothetically, yes. I mean, that's why she would be testifying, is to try to undo some of that damage. I don't know. I don't know if she's got it in her though. Okay, guys, let's break for the morning, and then we'll get started with the afternoon session. Let's see. It's what time is it now there? It is almost noon. So I would say I'm going to start really watching. Well, I mean, I'll keep an eye on it, but I'm going to assume that maybe like 30 minutes from now they'll come back from lunch. And then we'll get started. Also question here. Shoot. Good question, Debbie. Then why would the motorcycle evidence come in if the previous set discharge wouldn't? The only reason why the motorcycle incident is coming in is because she made the terrible mistake of lying to the police. And so that's why this evidence only comes in if she testifies. Because if she testifies, she then becomes a witness in her trial. And witnesses always have a number of issues that or a number of things that are at issue, right? Perception is something that you can go into. Honesty is something that you can go into. So if you have evidence of a witness, of a lay witness who has previously lied, you've either got some kind of like crime that they have been convicted of involving dishonesty, or there's an incident where it's like been shown one way or another that she did lie to someone, lying to the police. That can always come in because, like I said, honesty is always at issue for any witness. So that's why only if she testifies is that information coming in. If she doesn't testify, the jury doesn't hear anything about this motorcycle incident at all. And because that lie is coming in, naturally you're going to have to give some context to that lie. So some of the information about the motorcycle incident is going to come in, not all of it, not the most prejudicial aspects of it that aren't necessary for giving context, like for example the fact that he died, the fact that there was a settlement out of a civil suit that resulted from it. So that's that. All right, folks, I'm going to end the stream, and then let me first make sure that the afternoon one is made public. I think it's unlisted at the moment, so let me just change that really quick, and then I will end this one. And folks should be, there we go. Folks should be redirected automatically to that one if I set that up properly. If not, I'm still going to put out some social media posts about it as well. Okay, guys, see you in maybe about 30 minutes, I think. But I'm going to keep track of all the things to see if they come back a little bit earlier. All right, guys. Thanks. And thanks again to everybody for joining in, watching, whether live or on replay, whether you are engaging in the chat or on in the comments, or if you're just watching and lurking, etc. And thanks again to the mods, as always, for doing a fantastic job of, making sure that when people agree and disagree, they do so in a way that's constructive. Everybody's got a different perspective, and we welcome all perspectives. Okay, guys. Thank you so much again. See you in a bit.